are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
Lie. No man is obsolete.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Words, Mr. Wordsworth, that have no substance and no dimension, like air, like the wind.
I don't care. I tell you, I don't care. I'm a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions that you inject into your veins to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
Top of the morning to you. I got the Bob's Big Boy hairstyle. We've been broadcasting since 11 a.m. Central yesterday. What is that, 20 plus hours? Airing some of those exclusive interviews. Well, I made the big mistake of going to sleep on the couch over there for about an hour. But we are here live, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting you the latest tallies at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. We had 4 top search terms yesterday, thanks to you at Google. And we got Max Keiser, uninterrupted, no commercials for the next hour. We got 2 hours via video Skype connection. And no, I'm not trying to make my voice sound deep. This is what it sounds like when I've been talking for 20 hours. So we are here, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got Max Keiser on with us. And then coming up in about 2 hours, we have Gerald Celente, or coming up in an hour, we have Gerald Celente for 2 hours live via video Skype connection from New York City, or from upstate New York. I guess the whole state must be New York City, the metropolis. And, of course, his video Skype connection has been working absolutely perfect in all of our tests. That means it will disconnect continually once he gets on air with us. Coming up, you know, I keep saying this, but I'm gonna say it again because I like to repeat things over and over again, kind of like I'm a parrot or something, but it's important to say it. Jaron made me get up out of the couch about 10 minutes ago, so I'm sleepwalking here on air. Big mistake to go to sleep for an hour and a half on the couch. But so this is a radio debut here. I think of those old senators, 70-something years old. They'd go for... Did you guys Google record filibuster? Because I want those numbers. I mean, I'm a complete wimp, 36 years old, and I went out there and TKO'd and, you know, I guess it wasn't a technical knockout. It was a complete knockout and went to sleep for about an hour and a half. But we are here live. I want to thank everybody for making the InfoWars Moneybomb.com such a big success this year. We'll see if by the end of the live main broadcast coming up in about, what is that, 5 hours? If we have raised the $500,000 we need to continue the operation and expand and finish the TV studio. But there are great InfoWar crew people who are manning the phones. Most of the office went home about 2 in the morning, but they're all back in there right now on the telephones to take your donations or your orders. It's all the same thing, support. It's 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. But as I was saying, I was going to repeat myself. It's one thing to know all this intellectually, what's coming down the road. It's another thing for it to be here. I guess it's like a nation. We were told 6 months ago we had brain and lung cancer, and it's 6 months later, and we're gasping for air here on the bed and at the hospital, and our grandkids are all around the nation, and we're like, wow, I'm about to go into the wild blue yonder here. You know, it's How long did Senator Strom Thurmond go? He went 24 hours, 18 minutes. They're not allowed to go to the bathroom. They're not allowed to stop talking. And they're bringing me news in here. InfoWars Money Bomb, Alex Jones hosts 24-hour marathon. Glenn Beck's alter ego. That's the Post-Chronicle. And then they've got... and is that Jack Black? Are they finally putting that movie out, making fun of me? Because there's like Jack Black. Well, anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, Lord Keiser is ready. They're all in there laughing at me. What's going on here, guys? But it's another thing to actually see the Federal Reserve, this criminal group of larcenous worms, come right out and say, yeah, we're going to accelerate the devaluation. We're going to print dollars. And they don't even just give them to the public, even though it devalues them and hurts things. It'd be better if they would just give them to the public. They're just like, and we're going to keep all those and buy more things up with it and then raise your taxes and put taxes on your pension funds and global taxes and taxes on your health care. How does that sound? I mean, this is so brazen, so naked. So to talk about gold, an all-time record yesterday and today, what's happening with the markets, everything, we are joined by Max Keiser, a TV presenter, radio host, broadcaster, journalist. He's the inventor of the virtual specialist technology, prediction markets, Hollywood Stock Exchange, and PowerMyFilm.com. And also, Max is presenter, I got to tease him because he's always teasing me, of The Oracle with Max Keiser, BBC TV show, RT, Press TV. Max also presented films for Al Jazeera and the Huffington Post. Max is a host of also a Genesis radio program, so he's just an absolute maniac. Max Keiser, good to have you here with me. And please, I've got my brain tied behind my back today, so be nice to me. Max, it's good to have you here with us. What hour are we into now here on the marathon? 19 hours, so 19th hour. Good to have you with us, Max.
This reminds me of that scene from Pulp Fiction when one of the characters has a heroin overdose and needed a massive shot of adrenaline to the heart. Come on, Alex, wake up, get some energy, buddy.
I've got energy. I've got it. I'm charging up right now. No, seriously, I'm here, Keiser.
You know, the problem, here's a trick that Victor Hugo used to use when he was on writing marathons. He didn't bother turning the coffee grinds into coffee. He just ate the coffee grinds directly. That's what you need to do. Just put a whole mouth of coffee grinds right in there and just suck it down, buddy. Get some of this energy going. This is a major initiative, this money bomb. You got to raise money to fight the New World Order, and you're flagging, buddy. You're flagging. You need to get that energy higher.
Well, I'm starting to get energy right now hearing you. You are seething with energy.
Ramp it up, buddy. Ramp it up.
Max, your cell phone broke this morning. It had very low audio, and I guess you don't have a landline. Where did you discover a landline? Did you run down to that cookie shop? And
I'm down here at the fabulous worldwide headquarters of the MaxKeiser.com Enterprises, where we record the Keiser Report and the On the Edge programs for the enjoyment of our millions of fans out there around the world. So I'm in the studio, I'm in the bunker. We got a good landline, and let's talk about gold for a second. Gold, as you have pointed out, is once again busting out to new highs, Alex, and for the reasons that we talked about. And there's a new wrinkle in the story, and it has to do with China now becoming actively involved in a shooting war. And what are they shooting? They're shooting in the currency war. They're shooting currency. And here's the irony. Here's the tragedy. Here's the sociopathology of it. For the past 10, 15, 20 years, America has gone to Walmart and given Walmart all their hard-earned money for stuff made in China. That money then goes to China. And what is China using now to fight America in the currency war? The same ammunition dollars that America gave them. This is not a land war. This is not tanks and bombs. This is a currency war. With currency is ammunition. And what did China get? $2 trillion in ammunition from freaking Americans who shop at a Walmart for Chinese worthless plastic junk in exchange for live ammunition.
Yeah, but it's fun to sell your birthright for a toaster that breaks before you open the box.
So now China and the U.S. are involved in a hot shooting war, World War III currency war, and the U.S. is very disadvantaged in this currency war, and they're going to be completely mired in the unfolding catastrophe that is Act 3 and possibly the most devastating phase of the financial crisis, the foreclosure gate, the implosion ultimately of the big money center banks in the U.S.
That was the next thing.
A trifecta of fraud. A trifecta of fraud. Do you want me to walk through that for you?
Yes, because now we're hearing, there was a few problems with the mortgages, and a week later they're admitting, we knew about this years ago, but a week later, we're taking thousands of people's houses we don't even own that are paid for, and we're not going to ever tell you where all the deeds went, and they're trying to pass a law where they can take all the houses without even following any of the laws or procedures. So let's get into this whole sector of information and what this is leading to, Max Keiser.
Right. So, as I say, it's a trifecta of fraud, and we're talking about 60 million mortgages that were written over the past 10 years or so that are now all being proven to be, or I should say, substantial percentage proven to be utterly false and fraudulent. And the fraud has three parts to it. First of all, remember back in 2004, Alex, the FBI was doing an investigation into these mortgage lenders for making improper mortgage loans, the no-income, no-asset loans, the ninja loans, the no-job loans. They were saying there's huge mortgage fraud in the mortgage space, and it was rumored and proven that the mafia was in the mortgage lending game, and it was a huge money spinner for the criminal rackets and syndicates in the U.S. Remember, in 2004, the FBI launched that investigation. So all of the mortgages that were written for the past 10 years or so were fraudulently written. The mortgage themselves, the bank has a responsibility to do some due diligence to prove that the person borrowing the money has some capability of paying that money back. They didn't do any of that due diligence. They just signed off on millions, tens of millions of mortgages in a completely false way. That's phase one of the fraud. Phase two of the fraud is now, as these banks are trying to foreclose on these people, they find out that all the documentation to enact a proper foreclosure, that is equally being signed off in a fraudulent manner.
Because it was filled out. It was filled out by the MERS fraudulent system, literally by Don Corleone.
Right. The MERS system is a way to take 60 million mortgage contracts and to turn it into a synthetic product. These mortgage contracts are to legal documents what a chicken McNugget is to a chicken. Okay? If you know, a chicken McNugget is the end product of taking what is, at the beginning of the process of chicken, you put it through a huge blender, and then you come up with some goop at the other end, and you add some synthetic flavoring, and you serve that as food. MERS is the processing intermediary. Tens of millions of mortgages went to MERS. They were turned into essentially a blender of fraud, and out the other end comes goop that is being, and this is the third part of the fraud, this is the third part of the fraud trifecta, is that they took the goop, the mortgage goop that came out of the other end of MERS. Out of the anus of MERS comes mortgage goop that has no relevance to any bona fide legal contract by any legal standard. And they repackage it, they re-securitize it, and they resell it to banks around the world. Now, those banks realize that they're not holding anything that would have any reasonable expectation of getting any money back whatsoever. And who's one of the biggest holders of the mortgage goop? The Chinese. So they are becoming belligerent in the shooting war of this currency war, and their objective is twofold. Number one, destroy the U.S. dollar. Now it's no longer a question of, well, America's going to lose its competitiveness, so people are just going to ease their way out of having a lot of dollars in their portfolio, and they're going to diversify into other currencies. No. Now it's the dollar is our enemy. What do we do to blow it up? That's the Chinese mentality now. The Chinese are just getting increasingly more antagonistic and belligerent in their dollar holdings.
But maybe we can have a Harvard lawyer read off a teleprompter and fancy pants the Chinese. But I want to go back before you continue on the MERS situation. Isn't it more like you put a chicken, feathers and all, into a grinder, you take the goop out, and you feed it to a mentally retarded rat, and then you take what the rat vomits, and then you take a photograph of the rat vomit, and then you sell that as a chicken McNugget? I mean, wouldn't that be more what MERS is and all of this? Because, you know, they might sell it 5, 10, 15 times, credit default swaps, buckets of completely worthless stuff they sold to the public, the pension funds, the Chinese, the Europeans, everybody else. Of course, this is the global issue, say America. Sure, the swindlers running things here allowed this to happen. And then you've got the general public running around who are being fed on photographs of the goop. I mean, it's too much to say it's just goop, you know, like a chicken McNugget. Isn't it just a photograph of the goop?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. In other words, the catch-all phrase that is used to describe this market is the derivatives market. Derivatives, meaning that the entity, the thing that we're selling you, the value derives from something else. And as you just described, the value that is being used to derive the current value is based on something else that it too is a derivative of something from another value, which it too has a derivation from another value. So there's this whole chain of derivatives stacked up on top of each other. And as you say, it might as well be just a photograph of rat vomit coming out of the anus of a chicken McNugget for all the value that these things have. But they are able to use the law. This is another key part of the racket, because we're talking about a criminal syndicate, a racketeering problem here. You've got banks manufacturing these fraudulent documents and then packaging them as bond-related securities to other banks in foreign countries. Then you get the Justice Department to sign off on this as being somehow legally precedent. Now, we have evidence of this just last week. When the story first broke, what did J.P. Morgan immediately try to do? They immediately got Congress and the Senate passed this bill, which lowered the standard for notary qualification for a mortgage. They got that passed in 24 hours. Now, Obama put a pocket veto. He stopped this from becoming law. But within 24 hours, when caught stealing, the banks got a law passed in the Senate within 24 hours. To put that into context, the Americans have been trying to get decent health care for 20 years. They can't get a single bill through Congress that represents decent health care. Here the banks, in 24 hours, got the president, a bill in front of the president to radically transform the entire financial legal framework to allow the banks to lower the standard for the notary authorization on mortgages to cover their butts. I mean, does that not a clear indication that the White House is just a branch office of J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs?
Well, it certainly shows the Democratic Congresses, and along with the Republicans, and we know Ron Paul has exposed all this. You've exposed it. We know that Barack Obama got 4 or 5 times the money from Wall Street McCain did. Not that McCain was good. It's just that Obama was going to be their man to kind of con people to go back to sleep. But why did Obama do something right? I think this may be the only thing he's ever done right. What I've been told by a lot of experts I agree with is he did the pocket veto. He didn't outright veto it, and they're going to pass it after the election. So we'll forget about this outrage with the lame duck Congress that's coming up. That's going to give us some derivatives of not just chicken, but of duck a la Maine for us. So why do you think Lord Obama did that?
I think he was buying time, for sure. It's a hot button issue, and he bought some time. But in this case, with this fraud collapse, the problem is that it's spilling over into the global financial markets, and it's triggering this currency war. And the easiest way China to exercise, to hit the attack button is to buy gold bullion, because when gold bullion and silver bullion start to appreciate in value, it causes a total dislocation in portfolios around the world out of dollars and into precious metals and other assets. And last week, China increased their gold position. All the central banks are now net buyers of gold, and gold has become the key component in this currency war.
Okay,
and
Max, I want to get into all that, and I interrupted you. I want you to go back into the mortgages in layman's terms, how the fraud works. I'm going to give you the floor. So just I'm not going to interrupt you for about 10 minutes. I want you to go over that. I want you to talk about the players, any systems of responding to this fraud and corruption, any ideas you have on that front. We're going to open the phones up later in the hour, but you have forecast all this. But starting off, you heard my point at the start of the hour when you joined us from Paris, and that is, it's one thing to intellectually know all this and to have you telling us this 3 years ago and others telling us years ago, and having economists like George Humphrey on 11 years ago when they passed Glass-Steagall laying out everything that was happening. We know this private banking consortium did this by design. They ran it from England and the United States. And, I mean, all of this is true and obvious, and it's going to destroy global confidence everywhere. And I don't think even you and I consciously or physically realize, and other people out there, that this ton of bricks, we're kind of like Wile E. Coyote watching the whole cliff break off and drop from 5,000 feet, but it ain't hit us yet. I mean, all of this is just a prelude, so go into how you see this unraveling. But go over it all, Max Keiser of MaxKeiser.com.
Well, to get to the last part first, when will it all unravel? The mask that prevents the repercussions from hitting ties into the fact that the U.S. dollar is a world reserve currency, and commodities and oil is priced in dollars, and America is therefore insulated because that's the country of origin of the world reserve currency. So most Americans don't really have any experience of the extreme volatility and uncertainty and economic problems that the rest of the world has, because they have the benefit of living inside the echo chamber that is the world reserve currency. The sword comes down and chops off that bubble mentality once the dollar loses that status. And so this is happening in real time now, and this mortgage crisis is getting that ever closer. And the mortgage crisis is basically just a crisis of fraud, forgery, and counterfeiting. That's what this mortgage crisis is all about. Wall Street and the banking system, they make money by circulating paper, and you get fees in circulating paper. That's how you make money as a banker. So the more paper you can create, the more fees you can charge, and the bigger the bonus you can give yourself. Notice that this year, Wall Street is giving themselves the biggest bonus pool in their history of $144 billion, even though the economy itself has shrunk remarkably over the past 2 years. Unemployment's up, and every measure of economic activity in the U.S. is down. Wall Street's giving themselves the biggest bonus pool, $144 billion, in their history. How did they do that? Because they were able to increase the supply of worthless paper in the system by trillions, tens of trillions, hundreds of trillions of dollars worth. And so a mortgage, at the end of the day, what is it? It's a piece of paper. And once you create a piece of paper and you circulate it, you can charge a fee. So in this regard, it's just the same as counterfeiting. What is counterfeiting? I take a piece of paper, I make it look like legitimate paper, and I circulate it. If I circulate it, I get paid on that paper. These are fraudulent mortgages. These are counterfeit mortgages. They were conceived illegally. They are circulating in the system for the benefit of getting a fee. Now, to further insulate the banks from having any responsibility from counterfeiting and circulating fraudulent mortgages, the banks came up with the scheme of collectively packaging a lot of fraudulent mortgage securities into a so-called mortgage-backed security. And it goes by different names, like a collateralized debt obligation or various other acronyms to describe these flora and fauna of derivatives on Wall Street. And they came up with this idea because they realized that if they could package all these fraudulent mortgages into a new quasi-security that looked kind of like a bond, and they sold that bond to another bank or another pension fund, which is where a lot of this toxic waste resides today, which will create a huge pension crisis, because once all these mortgages are marked to market for their true value of zero, then people who thought they had a pension will realize they don't have a pension. But once they sold all this stuff into a pension account or another bank's balance sheet, they took all liability off their balance sheet. So they no longer have that debt on their books. So they're clean. They're laundering their debt problem in the international derivatives market, and they're laundering their debt problem and their fraud problem and their counterfeiting problem by dumping all this toxic junk into pension accounts and other banks' balance sheets. The only thing, having described in that way, that the question that would come up is, why would another bank buy another bank's toxic mortgage debt? And the answer to that is, you have to look at this as a criminal syndicate. These banks collude with each other, so that at the end, so a bank that sells 10 or 20 or $30 billion worth of toxic mortgage sludge to another bank, the bank that's buying that, their understanding between all the bankers is that they too will simply repackage that with some other securities and resell to another bank for a fee. And you create this global daisy chain of collusion where banks are constantly selling to each other the same garbage back and forth over and over again for the fees that go into the $144 billion end-of-the-year bonus pool. And they know that if the music stops, if the day comes, as it did in 2008, when there is a reckoning that they can simply get their insiders like Hank Paulson to go in front of Congress, put a gun to their head and say, give us $750 billion, or we're going to declare martial law. As the minutes from those meetings reveal, that was what was being threatened if they did not give them the $750 billion to bail out only the bankers and do absolutely nothing about the people who were victimized. The victims of this crime, the American people, the taxpayers, are being victimized in 3 or 4 ways. Number one, their housing market is being destroyed, and people are losing their house. And even if you paid 100% on your house, it doesn't make any difference. Bank of America will still foreclose on you, as they did 2 weeks ago for people who bought houses for cash. Or J.P. Morgan will still sneak in through the window or break down your door and try to get you to pay off some delinquent payments that they have absolutely no authority to do so. They'll just come into your house and terrify you right in your house. So the American people are being victimized in their housing market. Number two, as I just described, the American people's pension funds are being decimated because they all have all this toxic junk, which has yet to be fully marked to market, which means that they carry it on the books for 100 cents on the dollar. It's probably worth 0 cents on the dollar. That's the second way they're going to be victimized.
Well, Max.
Three, the U.S. dollar. Once the Chinese and other countries wake up to the fact that they too are holding worthless junk, they're going to create a force majeure, a buying panic in gold and precious metals, which will destroy the U.S. dollar and thus destroy America's purchasing power and make America a second or third or fourth world country. So the U.S. taxpayer is being victimized in multiple ways. All these banks are complicit in a huge mortgage fraud global syndicate. It's part of the crisis from 2008. We never left the crisis of 2008. And Obama, unfortunately, is shown zero leadership. The man, as far as I can tell, is a hologram. There's not even flesh and blood there. He's just some kind of weird projection of Dick Cheney's worst tendencies, and he unfortunately has given the American people absolutely no leadership whatsoever.
Max, simply put, they have announced that they do plan to hyperinflate the currency. And as you said, they're announcing that they will be taking the pension funds and keeping them safe for us. These people will run the United States and the world into a complete third world style collapse. They have been amassing giant paramilitary force against the people ahead of this scam, and in their own IMF World Bank documents planning it for decades. They believe this is their financial takeover of the planet. And do you think that the American people are going to go along with this? I mean, yesterday, even local news was talking about yes, the Army's going to be on the streets now to make sure you behave yourself. None of this was really for Al-Qaeda. It was all for you. We're going to gang rape you. We're the criminal government. I mean, it's insane.
Well, you know, if you look at somebody like Eric Prince, who was the head of Blackwater, and Blackwater, of course, one of the tip of the spear, so to speak, in terms of
now hiding out over in the Middle East, and it comes out in federal depositions. Hundreds of naked men running around with giant Tony Montana-level piles of cocaine on tables, firing into women and children's vehicles and people's homes, reportedly, for pleasure. Everything the Iraqis said, they said, who are these people? Giant steroid injectors. Is that who you're talking about? Right.
So it's non-extradition in Dubai. So he takes his money and he goes to a country, non-extradition, part of the axis of oil countries, and he's leading the way. So I fully expect that as the American people begin to wake up to what's being done to them, folks like Donald Rumsfeld, for example, if he steps foot in Europe, he will get arrested. And he almost got arrested in Paris a couple of years ago. So all these people are going to relocate to these countries in the Middle East and elsewhere.
So it's like it's like Nazis running to Argentina.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, remember, I mean, this crew of financial terrorists, a lot of them are left over from that era. I mean, we're talking about guys with deep roots to the aristocrats in Europe that were responsible for setting up the conditions of World War II, and they're still active in the global economy, and they're still roaming around doing the same kind of bad stuff that they've been doing for 60, 70 years. Unfortunately, there's no checks and balances in the U.S. governmental system to keep rogue tyrants and financial terrorists, as I call them, out of public office. And so now, what I find remarkable, to switch gears over to a more of a political thing, it seems that the move politically in the U.S. is to put somebody in, is to replace Obama. It seems like the new crop of politicians coming into office now are even more removed from any kind of definition of somebody who could conceivably offer the American people an alternative to just being hammered and slammed into oblivion by this encroaching Ponzi scam of foreclosures and what is going to end up at the end of the day, the return of America to the only economy that they will be able to be competitive in going forward. And that, of course, is the ability for America to grow cotton at competitive prices. I predict that within 15 years, the number one job in America will be cotton picker, as I've said on the show before, because with cotton prices skyrocketing and the dollar collapsing, you're going to have millions of people in America. The only job available to them will be living on Monsanto's plantation, growing genetically modified cotton for export. And it'll be right back to where things were, 150 years ago. And, the Civil War effectively was lost.
Well, Max Keiser is our guest here today, and I want to open the phones up for your financial questions for Max. It's 888-201-2244, 888-201-2244, our 27-plus hour transmission going into hour 20 here very, very soon. 888-201-2244. MaxKeiser.com is his website. I want to put a plug in here. We've got about $315,000, and that sounds like a lot, but when you got 20 employees and contractors and web servers and films and everything we're doing in this fight at this critical time as we go into this, we need to not just maintain ourselves on air but expand. But the economy's imploding so fast, quite frankly, it's not even a question of even finishing the studio, and we're going to get that done. The question is, just continuing this operation, period. When you buy the books, the videos, the T-shirts, all of it, you support our entire operation, reaching tens of millions of people a month, hundreds of millions overall in the sum total. And it's so important that we continue. So it's a listener's idea to have these money bombs. It's the 2010 third annual money bomb. Infowars.com, InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. And if you're listening all over the world, we're all in this together. If you're listening in Australia, if you're listening in Europe, if you're listening in Mexico, if you're listening in Costa Rica, if you're listening in Japan, and you believe in what we're doing, buy some books, buy some videos, buy some T-shirts, buy some these new Don't Tread on Me wristbands that are so popular. Donate $5, $1,000, whatever, because if what's left of the middle class doesn't get together and call for the prosecution of the Federal Reserve, J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, if we don't really come out boldly and say, look, criminals, we see you. Doesn't matter if you're bald-headed and wearing a $5,000 suit, you're a chicken-necked, Kinley, Bernie Madoff scumbag, and it's over. If we don't do that and start, truly taking this country back, I mean, even if we tried to fix everything now and did everything right, it's going to be incredibly painful. But these guys are taking us on an express elevator to hell, and we need to be louder and stronger and more focused. They're coming in with troops on the streets, wanting to shut down the free internet, trying to protect themselves from the crimes that these out-of-control, arrogant lunatics have committed against us. They think they're going to use the crisis to offer their total solution, which is letting them even, basically crap on us and rub it in, as they say. So I'm not putting up with it, and there's nowhere to run. This is global, and everybody needs to donate. We need to raise $175,000 in the next 6-7 hours. And so please support us. I mean, resistance is victory, and you better step up, ladies and gentlemen. It's that simple. And we're doing this money bomb also because as the implosion accelerates, who knows how bad it'll be soon? Who knows if we can even, stay on air in the current configuration if this continues? I mean, I can see the writing on the wall. So the toll-free number to call and donate is 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or InfowarsMoneyBomb.com, or link through at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. But we are here, ladies and gentlemen, going in, through, and beyond. I mean, Max, everything I just talked about, the alternative media under attack, all these outfits attacking us daily, MSNBC, CNN, Media Matters, ABC Nightly News, always trying to imply I'm calling for violence, always trying to imply I'm evil and must be shut down, cybersecurity openly wanting to take over the web. I mean, can you comment on how important it is to support alternative media and really run straight on at this enemy?
Well, let's keep in mind that the reason the mainstream is attacking your show is because they don't want people to understand that mainstream media borrows heavily from your show. So the stuff you talk about on your show 6 months in the future is picked up by mainstream media as news. So they're too cowardly to admit that you're setting their agenda. So they simply attack you and hope people don't understand that you're setting the media agenda. They just don't want to pay you the $20 or $30 million a year that they pay these other idiots on mainstream media because they're cheap. And guys like Murdoch over at Fox News is intellectually dishonest. And if they were honest, they would be, your organization would not be scrambling for $175,000. You'd have $20 or $30 million in the bank, and you'd be doing, the work of reconstituting the U.S. economy after the collapse. But you see, they're putting you on the margins. But at the same time, they're stealing all of your best stuff. So you're getting hit twice.
Well, they did that to you too, Max, and of course your technology patented that they've basically repackaged with the stock market issues, and folks can look that up on.
That's right. I'm familiar with the scam. It's unfortunate, but the compromise is unacceptable. I mean, you don't accept the compromise, and I don't accept the compromise, and hopefully there's enough people in the U.S. that are going to decide that they don't want to be compromised, and they're willing to take the steps necessary to get rid of this entrenched group of oligarchs and media monopolists, and to try to give birth to something that's going to be more representative of the values that supposedly are represented in the documents that created the country to begin with.
Well, talking about stealing my stuff, I'm happy if folks take the ideas and the guests and the information we talk about and put it out there. I mean, this most sincere form of flattery is imitation. But take Glenn Beck. I mean, I now have it confirmed in triplicate from people inside Fox that they're like, you don't understand. He's got a staff of over 40 people. He's got 5 people every day just to watch and listen to your show. And I don't even know why. I don't think I'm that good. And then now I see everything I do, not a month after, 2 days later, the same guests, the same video clips, the same research, but then repackaged where he's not blaming the military-industrial complex. He'll blame some mid-level nothing foundation or some little moronic communist academic who probably can't even, brush their teeth or tie their shoelaces or wipe their own, hind end without, help. I mean, literal mental midgets. And so they know this is effective, so they just repackage it and then divert it off. But I'm getting attacked by the left, the right, all these things. And, the FBI and the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL, I mean, it's like 5 times a day they're attacking now in the news, not once a week. And it's a little creepy because I'm just some regular guy from Texas that, gee, I learned 10 years ago they were repackaging mortgages and selling them and had an economist on that said this is going to implode. I mean, all I'm doing is saying, I love my country, don't destroy me. And if they're so threatened by some pumpkinhead redneck, I mean, who are these people? It actually shows how pathetic they are, Max.
Well, to the 17 or so intelligence agencies in the U.S. that are trolling my site, and we can check that out, obviously, from the data that we track, my message is very simple. Keep clicking on the ads.
But, I mean, okay, let's take the average person in one of the 17 giant agencies who are just stealing secrets and data from, American companies and others and giving it to globalists and all their drug dealing and crimes.
This is the amazing thing. You got all these intelligence agencies in the U.S. spying on me. While they're doing so, they're clicking on my ads. That revenue ends up subsidizing my French cheese purchases. So these 17 intelligence agencies in the U.S. are helping the French cheese manufacturers by subsidizing my purchase of the copious quantities of Camembert and Brie that I buy every week at my local fromagerie, and it's all being brought to me thanks to the idiocies of these 17 intelligence agencies who will sit all day at their desk playing with themselves and clicking on ads on my site. I say, bring it on. Click on more ads. You're subsidizing. I live in France, which was just discovered to have the highest productivity of any country in the world, and they work the least number of hours. The French people work the least number of hours a year, and they have the highest productivity, and they enjoy one of the highest qualities of life in the world. Brought to you by those jackasses at the American intelligence agencies. Thanks to you, I'm living like a real human being, not like a casino gulag victim face down in the cotton plantation down there in the southern United States.
Well, let's expand on that. It came out decades ago that the CIA has classified millions of newspaper clippings. And this is not a joke. They don't want the rest of the government reading it in their research, so they take Washington Post and New York Times articles and they snip them out and classify them. And when we look at our weblogs, and we haven't done this in a while, it is literally, of the millions of visitors that we get every few days, I mean, it's probably 0.5% is CIA, NSA, all these other defense intelligence, and we're talking about not clicks, not hits, tens of thousands of individual government IPs, not even hidden, logged in for hours. And so they're not just there spying on us. You're right. They're sitting there doing Lord knows what, just spending hours listening to us right now. I mean, they're obsessed with us, Max.
Right, and of course that generates ad revenues. And so, if it weren't for the intelligence agencies, I wouldn't have nearly the ratings I do now. So my business model is to capture some of that government largesse that they're throwing at these guys, converting it into clicks, and then buying, maintaining my lifestyle in a real country, France, which, by the way, if it wasn't for France, there would be no America, because who do you think funded the American Revolution but the French? This is why the monarchy of Marie Antoinette collapsed, is because they had all these debts to the United States. So America, their hatred of France is misplaced. It's like a petulant child, hating their parent. I mean, America sprung from the loins of France, and this is the motherland. This is where all the intellectual heavy lifting took place. They created the documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, all these things came from the intellectual heavyweights in France.
Well, we know why there's all the France bashing. That's because we've taken on a Anglophile, for those that don't know, kind of the worship of all things English, and not of the English people, but of the tiny corrupt imperial elite over there. And of course, France was our big buddy till the British intelligence set up the CFR, and through our media, they taught us to hate France. And so it's literally just a 300, 400, 500-year-old British elitist hatred of France that they gave the East Coast, people that talk about the Atlantic accent, or like Gilligan's Isle, with the Thurston Howell III, oh, lovey-dovey, oh, Spaulding and over here, how dare you? I mean, that's the East Coast people just in the last 100 years trying to act British, trying to, affect all of that, and that's kind of what runs our country today, but that's a side issue of culture. Max, I want to keep you about 10 minutes to the next hour, and then we've got Gerald Celente coming on for about an hour and 50 minutes, but I do want to start getting to these calls. Max Keiser is our guest, and we'll see what gold does today and the economy and all of this happening.
You got a new investment opportunity. If Prop 19 passes in California, you'd be able to buy marijuana-backed bonds, because they're going to raise about $20 or $30 billion in marijuana bonds backed by future tax collections of the marijuana industry. So I've got a new portfolio of what I call gold and ganja. Gold and ganja will give you the income from the marijuana bonds and the capital appreciation from the gold. It's the Acapulco gold and ganja bond portfolio. This is so tempting, Alex. I'm thinking about actually getting back into the money management business directly, because I can't think of a better, easier portfolio than to have 50% in zero coupon ganja bonds and 50% in gold assets. I could be making 5, 6, 7% a year income on the ganja bonds and get 20 or 30% a year appreciation on the gold. I'm so excited by this. I'm thinking about actually leaving the whole broadcasting thing and going back into money management, because this is the easiest money-making opportunity I've ever seen in 20 years.
Max, you're not going to leave broadcasting. But seriously, as for those that don't know, ganja is the Jamaican name for marijuana. Okay, let's go to some phone calls.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody knows that, Alex. None of your listeners are very, especially Matt. I bet Matt is laughing his head off right now in the control room because you're trying to explain to people what ganja is.
I think Matt's actually sleeping.
Industry in California right now. It's California's biggest cash crop. You don't think they know what ganja is in California? That means that it's one of the biggest cash crops in the entire American economy is marijuana. What do you think drives the American? What's left of the American economy? It's guns and dope.
Thank you, Mr. Keiser. That'll be quite enough from you. All right, let's go to Ingo in Australia, the land down under. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the transmission.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, big thank you for waking me up. Happened about 2 years ago. I'm absolutely fired up about what your work and what you do, the DVDs that you put out. It's absolutely enlightening. I now am a proud owner of the 911 with an inside job sticker on the back of my car. And I keep spares in the car with me, and when people pull me up, I hand them a few of these stickers. I say, go check it out for yourself. Use your brain, work it out for yourself. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
I have a question for Max, just regarding gold. I've done a lot of research in books and documents and stuff, and I've read the history about what's happened to gold in the United States. Where's it all gone to?
You're talking about the 8,000 rumored tons in Fort Knox?
Yeah, the 9,000 tons of gold in Fort Knox. There's always a transfer happening after every war, after every major event, and I'd just like to know, I mean, Ron Paul's talking about having, auditing the Fed and auditing the Fort Knox, but where's it all gone to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think 2 points. Number one, it would be nice to audit the Fort Knox to find out if there's actually the amount of gold that they say that's in there. And now, where is all the gold gone? That's a good question. Germany would ask the same question because, interestingly enough, when I was in the Bundesbank a few years ago, they revealed to me, and James Turk over at goldmoney.com confirmed it, that most of Germany's gold is actually held in New York. China's been buying gold. I think they have surreptitiously been buying gold. And so there's also talk about gold in building number 7, that there's a huge black market in gold. But I agree that there has not been an adequate accounting of the gold stocks around the world. So if that answers your question. I mean, if you're looking for me to give you a definitive answer, I can tell you one thing. It's not in my apartment.
All right.
What about any conspiracies? Anything you may have heard of on the grapevine as far as where it could have gone to? I mean, even the gold from the bottom of the World Trade Center, which was very hush-hush. I mean, it made the news once or twice out here, and apparently trucks were taking it out like it was on Die Hard Part 3.
Well, no, they love to put things in movies of what they're planning later, and it is true it was full of gold, and you're just not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to drink fluoride water and inject your children with mercury and eat GMO salmon and die of cancer. Ingo, good to hear from you. God bless you down there in the land down under.
God bless you too, Alex. Good luck on the money bomb.
Thank you. Well, it's up to everybody. You know, we've already basically reached the goals we had the last 2 years, but we're bigger goal this year because everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and we've got to cover some gaps here. People believe in what we're doing here and want to see this continue. We need people to support InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, 888-253-3139. Gerald Celente coming up in about 15 minutes. Now, listen, I mean, we've just got unlimited calls here, so you may not get to talk to Max. You're going to end up talking to Gerald Celente, who's great as well. But let's go ahead and talk to Derek in California. You're on the air with Max Keiser.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, I've been loving your show for so long. It's up early in the morning. I just want to say real quick to Max Keiser, I love both Max Keiser and Gerald Celente. You're my faves. I love you guys. But real quick, Max, and to Alex, I want to say right now in California, man, everyone out here, they're all broke. They're all talking about looking for a job. They all want somewhere to go. You know, quick on that. And I want to say to Max, I've been to Italy. I went to Amsterdam last year. I was in Switzerland. I was loving it. And I want to say to Max real quick, personal advice real quick. If your advice, if I had $5,000 cash, 23 years old, in the San Francisco Bay Area, what would you do right now? Where would you go? Thank you.
Thank you.
What would you do with $5,000? Well, as you know, Alex, I don't do individual investment advice, but I don't think that was the question. I think the question was more, if you're pulling the ripcord and you only had $5,000, where would be your first port of call? And I think the answer to that would probably be somewhere in Brazil. They've got a growing economy. They've got a resource economy. They've got a program for naturalization for citizens who arrive that is pretty good. You can become a resident and a passport holder reasonably quick versus other countries.
But before you'd be worried about kidnapping, but now you've got as good a chance to be kidnapped in South Texas or Arizona as you do in some of the worst cities in Brazil.
Well, you could get shot in Austin and down in El Paso from the drug war happening just 100 miles away. But no, I mean, Brazil is huge, and they've got a lot of cities all over Brazil, and some of them are absolutely gorgeous, and very calm, quiet, retirement-type cities where you can have an extremely nice lifestyle. And as I said, you can, for that kind of money, if you're just going to try to hit the ripcord and pop up somewhere on the globe and try to start fresh, that would be my first choice.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Dave in Texas, you're on the air with Max Keiser.
Yeah, Alex, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, man, just enjoy the show. I think Money Bomb's great. It's the first one I've been in on, and, I just love the broadcast, and I've listened for a long time, first-time caller. And I have a question for Max about the pension grab. And I think, Alex, you did mention this beginning of the week. I think you'd explain how this whole thing might go down, but I just wanted to get it from Max and see what he has to say about it.
Yeah, they're going to grab them and say they're protecting them. Max, comments on that.
I missed the pension grab. Did you talk about that earlier?
No, I mean, he wants you to talk about how they're going to try to grab it. I mean, I guess, if you don't give us your pension, you're with Al-Qaeda.
There's some of the federal level.
Oh, well, in other words, the pensions, the way pension management works is they have a mandate to return a number of percentage per year, 5, 6, 7%, to try to make the actuarial commitment of the retirees that are eligible for their pension accounts. And so there are these huge pools of capital, and they're managed passively, and the people who manage them are not really all that high up on the banking food chain, I guess you could say. And so what happens is many times they get calls from Wall Street, and they'll say, and this happens all the time, you read about it all the time, somebody from J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs will call up and say, we've got $10 billion in collateralized mortgage, structured financial commitments that are going to be paying 6% over the next 10 years. And the pension manager says, well, they pay 6%, and Moody's and S&P give it a AAA. Remember, Moody's and S&P are part of the conspiracy. They're part of this syndicate. They give their blessing to stuff that is worthless, essentially. And so the manager simply says, okay, yeah, I'll take it. So they put that in the pension account. Now what we're finding out is that the mortgage crisis is a trifecta of fraud, and that this paper is not worth 100 cents on the dollar. It's not going to pay any income. It's worth nothing. So the pension account has to come out and say, we're sorry, but those assets we thought we had, they're actually worthless.
But it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Even Bloomberg reported, 6 months ago that the government is, quote, ordering private pension funds to invest in failed banks. And there's no law, but when the federal mafia shows up and says, listen here, Mac, put the money in the bag of your deads. And they say, yes, sir, Mr. Government, let me lick your boots. I'm not with Al-Qaeda. Here, take Granny's money. They go, that's right, next time I'll want more, Mac. I mean, that's basically the attitude here.
Well, this is leading to the mother of all pension grabs, which is the federally mandated directive that Social Security must buy all of this toxic waste. And this is how they're going to try to launder billions of toxic waste, is by the federal government saying Social Security now, under federal mandate, must buy this stuff. And, of course, that will obliterate Social Security. And anyone...
And then they'll blend all that together with all the derivatives, and then everybody's tied to it even more through financial terrorism and blackmail. And they're admitting they want to put taxes on your pension funds. They're going to take it and manage it. But after all, Max, don't you feel safe having your private pension fund taken by Wall Street-run Washington? I mean, this is freedom. And they're training the troops to make sure we understand how good the government is right now. And look how good they treated those Iraqis. A million of them dead. A lot of Americans laughed and enjoyed it. Well, now the same system is going to have a good time with everybody out there. Dave, God bless you. Good to have you on board with us. A few final calls with Max Keiser. Then we're going to play a quick video, and then we're going to have Gerald Celente on via video Skype connection. We are live. It is the 15th day, Friday, the 15th day of October, 2010. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139 to call and donate. Please help us, folks, continue and expand to the next level. Caller one, Gayla in France. You're on the air, and if you don't like tyranny, you must be with Al-Qaeda. Welcome, Al-Qaeda.
Hi, Alex. This is Gayla. I'm kind of nervous a little bit. My question is for Max.
It sounds like you have a little bit of a crush on Max right now, Gayla.
Well,
I'm married.
I bet this is going to be a surprising call. Well, I'm curious, yes.
Yes, Gayla, I'm going to shut up and stop being sarcastic. I'm a bit dingy. I apologize.
I'm from Texas, too, okay? I'm a Texas girl, too. I was born and raised in Texas, and I was born in Hereford, Texas, and never mind. But I live in France now. My question is for Max. Is he going to take your advice and look for a girl to get married and have some little Max babies?
Say that again, ma'am. I didn't... say that again.
To actually take your advice,
yes,
and find a good girl or whatever, and have some little Max babies.
Stacy just entered the room, and she's carrying a shotgun.
That's right. So I knew it. I could sense it. I could tell by her voice when a female's sniffing around. Gayla, you called up going after old Max. I think you got a pretty big...
I don't want to do the job. I just was curious because I live in France. And I thought, hey, we could work something out and find someone. But I just think Max is a wonderful person, and think that we need more guys like that. I'm
losing consciousness.
So Stacy's choking.
I'm going to be dead.
All right. Max, you there?
Whoa, man, that was a close one.
Gayla, are you gone?
No, I'm in trouble, man.
Listen, I can't be a matchmaker here. Max is taken, Gayla.
Oh, heck. Well, then can I ask one more thing, and then you can let me go?
Sure.
My son loves it when you do Pinky and the Brain.
Okay. I can also do Marvin the Martian. Oh, dear, I've had to take all your pension funds. Now I'll have CENTCOM disintegrate you. We're occupying your country with paramilitary forces to protect you.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, that's not Pinky and the Brain. That's Marvin the Martian. Thank you, Gayla. That was a very interesting call. Max, you just have the women savagely beating down your door right now.
Well, you see, the timbre of my voice, it actually tickles their uvula.
I don't know what that is, but okay. That's a family show, Keiser. That sounds bad, whatever you just said.
No, the uvula is a little punching bag at the back of your throat.
Oh, okay.
It's a perfectly, benign piece of the human anatomy.
Okay.
If I said clitoris, that would have been
that's enough.
else.
That's enough. Okay, Keiser. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Look, let's take one more call for Max Keiser, the gallows humor here as we accelerate into Beelzebub's kingdom on earth, the god of this world. Let's talk to Vincent in New Orleans. You're on the air.
Yeah, hey, Alex, Max, good morning.
Welcome.
Great morning show. I like the morning show with Alex Jones and Max Keiser. It's great. I've been to Austria before, Max, and I spent some time over there, and I just love the country. How do you think Austria?
Well, first let me say, anybody that leaves America is with Al-Qaeda, and you're unpatriotic, and you should be like most Americans and not even have a passport. How dare you, Vincent, say that you traveled to Al-Qaeda, also known as Austria, that we all know they're Taliban stronghold that hates America, and they should take their export back, Arnold Alois Schwarzenegger. But anyways, I apologize. Go ahead and ask your question of Max Keiser.
Yeah, well, I was just, I have been to Austria before. I love it. I like being able to hike up the mountains in the Alps and find that there are no grizzly bears or mountain lions, and there's a beer hall on top of it. And I just wanted to know what you thought was going to happen with Austria in the coming economic meltdown.
Well, I mean, so the question is, what's going to happen to these countries, or are these places good places for people to go to when they leave the U.S.? Because those are two.
Well, I wasn't going to put it that way, but yeah, basically, if you,
long after we're overrun by third world populations and we're all, literally running around licking the boots of the local strongman, I think they'll be on top those 500-year-old abbeys swilling ale.
Here's a breakdown on expatriation. The easiest place to get a residency, if you arrive in the country without any papers whatsoever, is Germany and the Netherlands. You can go to Germany or the Netherlands today and go to the police station, say, "Hi, I'm here," and you can establish residency immediately without any papers whatsoever. Germany, they have that huge American military base, so they're very friendly, actually, to Americans for that reason.
Rammstein.
Just has a reason. Now, if you're looking for naturalization citizenship, Belgium, interestingly, is probably the easiest place to get on track to get a passport. You could probably get a passport in Belgium in 4 or 5 years. It is somewhat costly. If you just want to buy a passport today, there's two countries in the Caribbean. Dominica is one of them. Nevis St. Kitts is another one. It's very expensive, though. It costs $75,000 for Dominica, $200,000 for Nevis St. Kitts. Hold
on. Why do all these countries want money to come to them? If you come to the U.S., you can have your anchor baby and get it all paid for and then run around with a Mexican flag screaming down with gringo. I mean, can't I go to Dominican Republic and just show up and say, "Give me welfare, I pay for my kids, and I'm going to go to your soccer games and run around with an American flag on the field, and if you don't like it, I'm going to scream racist"?
Well, for somebody who's been buying gold for the last 10 years, any of your listeners that now have large gold positions, the fact is that someday you're going to be wanting to sell that gold. I don't know when that day will be, but someday you will be. If you want to avoid the tax liability, you need to relocate. in a country like Dominica or one of these other countries. Otherwise, you're going to give back a lot in tax liability. So it's worth it. The $75,000 you pay to get a passport is probably net going to save you money if you've been doing the smart thing, listening to Alex Jones, and been buying gold, and Gerald Celente, who has been early and absolutely correct on the gold trend for years. If you've been doing that, just think of the arbitrage on the tax side, and you would give you a good reason why to go forward.
Max, we're out of time. We'll get to Dana, Zach, Jeff, Julio, who's been holding since last night. He called back in. We're going to get to him first, and we take calls with Gerald Celente. I'm sorry I'm a little bit behind, so we're going to get to him about 15 minutes late because we're about to play a key.
I'm doing Gerald Celente. I'm doing it for you, man.
Hey, Max, crazy times. Your monthly visit on the regular radio broadcast is coming up very soon. Thanks for being part of the 27-hour marathon 2010 Money Bomb, my friend.
My pleasure.
You're awesome. I think this is one of the best videos Aaron's ever put together showing how we're being persecuted and attacked, but also the successes we're having. It's about 10 or 11 minutes long. We come back. Hopefully we're going to have... I know he's already waiting in the wings, but we're going to have Gerald Celente, the top trends forecaster, on with us. A great compliment back-to-back with Max Keiser. He'll be with us for about an hour and 40 minutes, commercial-free with Gerald Celente, taking your phone calls. And then we've got a bunch of other guests. Paul Craig Roberts joining us, former head of the policy at the Department of the Treasury, going right into the regular radio broadcast at 11 a.m. I will continue. And don't forget, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. This is your chance right now to be involved at supporting us in this war. This is like war bonds. The globalists take your money and then use it for propaganda against you and control. We're just asking you to give and help us expose these creatures. So 888-253-3139 or InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or just go to InfoWars.com and link over. We need to get about $170,000 in the next 6 hours or so to be able to hit this goal, and I think we can do it. With your help, and we couldn't do any of this without you. So please call everybody you know. Tell them to tune in right now to the free video stream at InfoWars.com and the free audio streams right there at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Let's go to this video, and we'll come back live with Gerald Celente of the Trends Research Institute. Stay with us.
I want to ask you a question. What media organization can you think of in the world that's having a bigger effect at actually waking people up to hardcore issues? Sure, Ron Paul is wonderful, and he talks about the private Federal Reserve and the inflation tax and the imploding economy that's being engineered by the central bankers. But when it comes to media, who will really tell it like it is? And who has woken more people up? The answer is Infowars.com. And that's because you, the listeners of my broadcast in the last 15 years, as we slowly built and grew this platform to get the message of true freedom and sovereignty out, have continued to spread the word about the transmission. We're not funded with federal government product placement or propaganda placement or behavior placement money, as Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC are on record with billions of dollars a year of federal money. We're not supported by the big mega corporations that want the New World Order that is a giant collectivized corporate slave system. We don't have that support. We have your support. We are truly grassroots. And everything we've talked about, unfortunately, is coming true. I wish we'd been wrong. But we were only following the globalist-owned documents that were public. And so we've been proven right. And as we go into this critical juncture, this critical time in 2010, 2011, as we look forward, we realize here at Infowars.com, my syndicated radio show and the websites and the films, that we've got to kick it into the next gear, the next level. We've got to give our maximum effort against tyranny. There is a huge awakening taking place. Just this week, it came out that all the conspiracy theorists were right, that most of the big mortgage companies and major banks have been engaged in fraud, even repossessing homes that they didn't even have the deed to and that were paid off. Now they're suspending most foreclosure around the country. 5 major banks have completely suspended it, including the biggest mortgage holder, Bank of America. But that's just one issue. The dollar is plunging. World government is being announced. The answer to the crisis the banks engineered is to give them more power. Bottom line, We have a responsibility to intensify our operations against the globalist. And it's been your support of the radio show, the sponsors, the buying the books, the t-shirts, the films, getting them out to people that has supported us over the years. Now we want to complete our TV studio. We want to launch a big social network to get freedom lovers together. We want to do so many other things, like producing 4 films a year, not just 2. Many of my documentaries, like The Obama Deception, have been seen tens of millions of times for free online because you have supported us. We are on a mission to expose the globalists. Their crimes are so incredible, so transparent, that if we will simply expose them and resist them and continue to say no to their oppression, their system will fall apart and is already beginning to fall apart. They are not invincible. They're only men just like us. And I believe, I know that free humanity is better than these parasitical control freaks. I know we're going to beat them. But I also know we don't have a choice. Slavery isn't a choice at all. I want liberty. And so I'm going to fight with every ounce of my being, of my soul, of my spirit. We're going to have a 24-plus hour special broadcast that kicks off at 11 a.m. Central this Thursday and runs through Friday into the next live radio broadcast. It'll be live as well on Friday. And we're having the third money bomb. The first money bomb started 3 years ago when listeners began the effort on their own. I didn't really support it at first because I never really asked for donations. But that money that came in, that $300,000, really helped us expand. And the second money bomb helped us move into these studios and build what we've done here. We need this third money bomb going into this depression, going into this controlled implosion to be even bigger so that we can complete the studios and expand the overall output of key information we're putting out. We are going 110%. And if you believe in what we're doing, if you support what we're doing, spread the word about the broadcast, the online videos, the films, the news websites, and donate, whether it's $5 or $100. Every bit of that money bomb is going to go directly into expanding our facilities so we can challenge the corporate media at an even higher level. My friends, it is up to you the effect we're going to have. But you've seen George Soros publications like Media Matters and many others intensifying their attacks on us. You've seen the ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, saying that I'm a menace and a danger.
The government, law enforcement, there are a whole set of evil agents out there. And though I don't expect to see Alex Jones taking a shot at them anytime soon, there are people out there who are perfectly willing to do exactly that.
You've seen Nightline.
Floating these highly charged ideas at a time when the country is already very angry and anxious, that you're making things more dangerous.
You've seen MSNBC.
When the hatred of our own elected government becomes explosive.
He maintains that he's neither far right nor far left, but his appeal to the anti-government new right is palpable.
You've witnessed CNN. You've seen them all coming after us.
I'm not calling for any offensive actions. I'm calling, like Malcolm X did, for people to be able to protect themselves in this country from scum at CNN.
As Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack you, then you win. First they ignored us, then they laughed at us, now they've been really attacking us. Well, what comes next? We're going to win. It is not a foregone conclusion. It is not a self-fulfilling prophecy that we have to give in to tyranny and that's just the way it is. Resistance is victory. Simply standing up is victory. And we've been out there on the front lines when MSNBC employees are attacking us and cutting up our equipment with knives. We have stood there and taken it and resisted when the media has lied and claimed that we're supporting cop killers. We have exposed FBI operatives like Hal Turner, who attacked me for more than a decade as a federal agent, and it came out in federal court he was a federal agent. We are under attack by COINTELPRO, by the financed fake grassroots, the Rent-A-Mob, by the corporate media, by the think tanks. The In the Fed rallies that I've been at have been surveilled by the U.S. Army. My great crew members like Rob Dew up at the G20 last year, he got arrested, taken to a FEMA facility. They had troops and police there and had bags over people's heads. It's turning out in Pennsylvania that an Israeli company was involved in surveilling members of the legislature for Homeland Security. These are perilous times. This is serious issues. And I'm going to explain it again very simply. Our success is governed by our hard work, our focus, our determination, our research. We've got that side of the equation. But the other side of the equation is you supporting us. I know there are a lot of well-to-do people out there who have pumped their money into the Democrats and Republicans and who feel like they're members of the establishment. You know you're being targeted in this implosion. You understand that we are going into a seriously authoritarian, high-tech version of slavery. And so I'm asking you, the people out there, who the federal government takes your money and then uses your own tax money to finance propaganda against you, I'm asking you not at the coercive barrel of a gun like the government does, but simply by asking that if you believe in what we're doing, if you believe in the message that you see and hear and that we're putting out, or if you even believe in true alternative grassroots media challenging the globalist, that you need to support us. But whatever you do, join us this October 14th from 11 a.m. right into October 15th, a 24-plus hour live transmission with special, never-before-seen video interviews that are coming up in 2 of our new films we're developing. Alan Watt.
The evidence is all there, but knowledge, remember, is scattered.
Lord Christopher Monckton.
Life in prison would be the best thing for Al Gore.
Dr. Clenard Childress.
Margaret Sanger was a devout racist, and that's what people need to know.
Dr. Paul Craig Roberts.
How bad can it get? It can get worse. It will get worse.
Katherine Austin Fitts.
If you pick up the telephone and call the customer service number if you have a problem with your food stamps, you know who you get? You get somebody in India who works for J.P. Morgan Chase.
Jeffrey M. Smith.
One of the interesting aspects of genetic engineering is anytime a scientist discovers a problem, they're attacked.
And a bunch of live interviews, your phone calls, and a lot more as we attempt to raise $500,000. The website is InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, and of course we're going to have live streaming throughout the day at InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, not just of audio, but of video of this historic transmission. And if you can't give, if you aren't doing well, as most Americans are, I don't want you to give $1. There's a lot of people out there who are going to have their wealth destroyed if they don't step up. The middle class is disappearing. It's time for people out there that claim they're libertarians, claim they're patriots, claim they're freedom lovers, to actually back someone who is for real, who tells it like it is, that talks about inside jobs, that talks about government-sponsored terror, that talks about eugenics, that expose the fact that our government's been injecting people worldwide with syphilis, not just black people in Alabama. We're hardcore. We're the most hardcore transmission there is out there. And that's why the government operatives and the haters and the control freaks at every level come after us, because they know we're real in their gut and they're scared of it. We've got the weapons, we've got the crews, we've got the maps, we've got the GPS. We're ready to go into New World Order Central and blast the hell out of them in the info war. All you need to do is pull up with your trucks on the tarmac and put the fuel in our engines. We are blasting off, going into enemy territory, launching the biggest offensive we have ever done. But the destiny of this operation is up to you. Again, if the banksters have raped you 7 ways to Sunday, I don't want you to donate. Spread the word about this special 24-plus hour broadcast that's coming up. That's the key. I want to commend my crew and everyone over the years out there that spread the word about the show, that has bought our books and videos, and has enabled us to give the films out on the web for free. You have had a massive effect. Together, we have reached over 200 million people in just the last 2 years alone on YouTube and Google alone. That's got the system scared. That's why they're trying to co-opt what we're doing and repackage it as a neocon fake right-wing movement. That's why it is our responsibility to move to the next level to effectively challenge the globalist and bring true grassroots, populist, constitutional leadership to the front. To paraphrase Samuel Adams, it does not take a majority to prevail. It only takes an irate, focused, angry minority to continually push forward and ignite bushfires in the minds of men and women everywhere. Every single one of you is a commando on the front lines of the info war. I don't want you behind me. I want you right beside me. I will see you October 14th, 11 a.m. Central for the kickoff of the InfoWars Money Bomb 2010. The grassroots has demanded it, and we're going to give it to you. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for the next hour and 40 minutes. We are joined commercial-free by one of the busiest guys in the country and the most accurate trends forecaster in the world. In fact, he basically developed that term and that science. He doesn't really need any introduction to this great audience. And I just hope, being worn out into hour number 20 of live transmission, that I can, not be too dingy and do a good job with Gerald Celente. We are, of course, trying to raise $500,000, which sounds like a lot. One studio at Fox cost over $10 million. We're trying to finish our studio for TV and fund everything going into this depression. Our audience has tripled, but the revenue's gone down, as I know it has for everybody. As we're in a greatest depression, as Gerald Celente said, his website's trendsresearch.com. He's an American trends forecaster, publisher of the Trends Journal, business consultant, and author who makes predictions about the global financial markets and other events of historical importance. Celente has described himself as a political atheist and a citizen of the world. He has appeared as a guest on television news shows such as The Oprah Winfrey Show, The Today Show, Good Morning America, CBS News, Glenn Beck's NBC Nightly News. The list goes on and on. His forecast since '93, he was doing it before that unofficially, best-selling author, have included predictions about terrorism, economic collapse, and war. More recent forecasts involve fascism in the United States, food riots, and tax revolts. Celente has long predicted global anti-Americanism, a falling economy, immigration woes in the U.S. In December of 2007, Celente wrote, failing banks, busted brokerage, toppled corporate giants, bankrupt cities, states in default, foreign creditors crashing, I'm reading from the Journal, out of U.S. securities. Whatever the spark, the event is set for panic in the streets. And just as the Twin Towers collapse from the top down, so will the U.S. economy. When the giant firms fall, they will crush the man on the street. He has also predicted tax revolts. He predicted the Tea Party. And it just goes on and on, ladies and gentlemen. He appeared in 2008 on the Fox Business Network and predicted the economic depression, tax rebellions, food riots by 2012. That's now beginning worldwide. So he also predicted economic 9/11 and the panic of 2008. And he talked about Obamageddon. What's scary is he came out, it's got to be 9-10 months ago now, and said on this very broadcast, he said it first here, and it made attention, caught attention of media all over the world. He said, it's going down. I love to do imitations, but I'm not going to do it. But he said, it's going down by December. The dollar's going down, gold's going up. He said, the housing thing has only begun. And I mean, it's literally prophecy. And here's gold up at close to 1,400. The mortgage scam, we've learned, is just completely mafioso by the white shoe boys, as he calls them. And it is so insane that even though I've known about this for a long time and talked about it as well, it's still something to know it intellectually, but to have a front row seat to your own roasting. And so we'll talk with Gerald about everything that he's been right about. I wish he was wrong. I wish I was wrong. I wish all our other experts, or Bob Chapman and Dr. Paul Craig Roberts and Webster Tarpley and Max Keiser were wrong. But we're not wrong. We're right. And so for the next hour and 40 minutes, he joins us. We're very appreciative of him getting up early to do this. Trendsresearch.com. Everyone should subscribe to it. It's just invaluable information. It's governments, major corporations, Fortune 100, they all subscribe. You should as well. The key inside trends info he gives you is just so important. And again, I just give credit where credit's due. Gerald Celente, good to have you here with us.
Buongiorno, Alex. Thanks for doing all you are doing, and I wish you the best of good fortune. And I'll do what I can to help as well in raising money for a cause that's well needed in this world. When we have a mainstream media, I don't know how these people could go to sleep at night being the people that they are and perpetuating this disgusting propaganda that they're putting out there, that are keeping the people in like feet in cement rather than moving forward to do something to change the direction that this country's going in, which is a crash course.
You know, I worked for a large animal vet several summers, Gerald, and one time we were driving along and these buzzards were eating a dead deer early in the morning on the side of the road, halfway out on the highway, and we tried to drive around the deer, driving 60 miles an hour, but the buzzards were so greedy eating the meat that they didn't take off until too late, and one of them smashed the windshield, broke the windshield, just cracked it. But the issue is, that's how I see the globalists, this corporate Wall Street mafia. They are so busy eating the rotten meat of this country and other nations they've basically destroyed. We're dead and just don't know it yet, financially, that they're just staying on the dead carrion and just driving it into the ground. I mean, how did you on this show 9 months ago, and a lot of I remember I had another economist on right after you, and he said, I respect Gerald Celente, but man, that's putting it all on the line. That's all in. That's poker face there to say you're going to see the implosion accelerate and the clear depression being signified by the end of this year. And I mean, you talk about calling it. The mainstream media hasn't fully admitted it, but anybody who looks at the evidence knows it's here. How did you do that, Gerald? You got a crystal ball up there?
No. Current events form future trends. If you read the facts and you analyze them and you go beyond the political hype and the lies coming out of Wall Street, you really can see what's going to go on, but people don't want to face it. So they believe for how long that the stimulus was going to work. We said it as soon as it happened, that it wasn't a recovery, it was a cover-up. They've just been covering it up worldwide with this cheap money. And look what's going on, Alex. There's a currency war going on. And that's not my words. Those are the words of the Brazilian finance minister, Manteiga. And what's going on is that in order for these big corporations to export more of their junk overseas, they're devaluing the dollar, just as we said they were going to do. We said they were going to devalue their way out of this. And they're doing it in front of our eyes. And not only the U.S., now it's a whole war out there. Japan's trying to lower their value of their currency. China, as we know, continues to lower the value of their currency. One country after another, it's in a race. So what's the bottom line? Gold prices are going up. You don't have to be a genius to figure this one out. But people also don't want to believe that their country is going under. They invested so many people invested so much of their mental capital into believing in hope and change we can believe in, that they don't want to admit that they've been had. And the big had is that we're going into the worst economic times in modern history. And we're just finishing up the Autumn Trends Journal. And I have to tell you that we're looking in 2011 for a great plague to be recognized. It's going to be a time-release plague that's going to wipe out a lot of this population. Having said that... Hold on, holy mackerel, because you are a very serious person. You got a lot of great sources. You told us that gold would explode, that the meltdown would continue, that the mortgage crisis would be inflamed again, that the depression would be recognized by the end of this year. We're 3 months away from that, 2.5 months away. Clearly, you've been right there. I mean, you're 99% correct, and we'll know if you're 100% in the next 2.5 months, and I have no doubt you're right. You just talked about a mass plague being released, wiping out population. Let's not flesh that out and then continue, Gerald. All right, it's not a virus, and it's not going to be a vermin like the last Black Plague. This one's a time-release plague. It's the obesity plague. You're seeing it with Glenn Beck going blind from aspartame as they're projecting. That's what they're saying. I'm not claiming that's what it is, but it appears that way. You're looking at this country literally exploding. It's not hoof and mouth, it's hand to mouth. This country is going to, they're talking about health care reform. Forget health care reform. How about reforming what the people are doing to themselves? And as the more desperate they become, as the stress levels and anxiety build higher, the more the hand goes to the mouth. And not only with food, it's with these poison pharmaceuticals that they're gobbling up. We're going to hit a crisis level. You're going to start seeing it in the numbers. Again, they mask the statistics, Alex. You have to be politically correct. You can't call it famously fat. You have to call it obese. You cannot say, and that's the other thing, they're cooking the numbers just like they cook them with inflation, just like they cook them with unemployment.
No, we know diabetes is up 3,000%, cancer over 2,000%. We know that they are adulterating the food with so many poisons. The French have laws. They won't allow it. They smoke 2-3 packs of cigarettes, get drunk every night, eat incredibly fattening food, and they're all amazingly healthy and live on average 8 years longer than Americans. But they won't allow GMO. They won't allow all this. And people keep gobbling because when they're eating processed food, they're not getting the nutrients. So the brain is saying, hey, I'm not eating food. You're just eating empty calories. And you predicted, I remember 4 years ago on this show, and on your own Trends Journal, Gerald, and on other shows, you, with precision, predicted the next big bubble after housing would be the colleges. Now they're admitting it's basically worthless, most degrees, and a total scam. You predicted all this. You predicted the financial implosion that's currently happening, the second wave. So you're saying this drugged out, stressed out mass of Prozac, fluoride, aspartame. I mean, they admit that McDonald's and other companies and almost all TV dinners have a, quote, foaming agent that is silicone, deadly poison to your kidneys. And so you're saying we're just going to see this accelerating.
Exactly. And then, again, you don't have to be, put it together. How could anybody not? So now what happens is you build that stress level on top of this weakened host, and you're in trouble. You were talking about the people, as I was listening, was waiting to come on, about the people that listen to your show, the people that you want alongside of you. It's the 20% solution, and that's what we're saying. Because as this is going down at one end, go back to the last Black Plague. It was followed by a renaissance. The people that survived were the people that could think for themselves. They're the ones that changed their lifestyle. They're the ones that went back and looked to the past, a rebirth, to find out what was better before than what was going on now. So simultaneously, as we're going down, there's that 20%. There's the people that listen to what you're saying, that read the Trends Journal, that listen to Chapman and Roberts and Keiser and the rest, that are taking a new direction. Alex, every day we get emails, every day, and people thanking us for what we do. But it's not just like with you. I don't want anybody following me. I got my own trip. It's about they thank us for empowering them, to showing them other ways of doing things. So as we're talking about where so many people are going to be going down, a lot are going up. So, for example, if you want to eat eggs from these factory farms, these chicken coop concentration camps, and you get sick on them, don't cry, baby. If you want to eat Auschwitz Farms eggs, mass-produced, mass-consumed, mass murder, don't cry to me. If you go to McDonald's, you eat Burger King, you wash it down with Coke, you can't push yourself away from an all-you-can-eat buffet, don't ask me to help you pay for your health care. God forbid you get dealt a bad hand, you become, disabled or for whatever. Count me in, I'll be there to help. But what we're going to start seeing, Alex, just like the Black Plague, you're going to start seeing a thinning of the herd. And the people that are going to move forward and make it are going to be that 20%. They're going to be putting out those foods out there. They're going to be the Made in America. I told you, one of the great things that happens is that we get people telling us how we're helping them. One guy started a whole line of tomato sauces from the best products he could get in America. Zeke, my technical guy, he heard that advertisement that you have on for the jeans. He sent away for him. He loves them, made in America. So as it's going down, you don't have to go down with it. As it's going down, see where gold is going. Think 100 times before you get sucked into buying another piece of real estate. Break the chains from those chain stores. If enough people stop going to Walmart, stop and shopping, stop going to Target, stop eating McDonald's, guess what? They collapse. You know why? Because they're working on margins. And the only way those margins grow is by them expanding. And the only way they expand is to get your money. Once their margins go down, they begin to collapse. 20% of the people in this country can break the chains. And when they break those chains, until they break those chains, they're never going to be really free in this country.
Gerald Celente is our guest. I want to get back into the economy with you and a sneak peek at your in-depth fall Trends Journal that's about to come out. People can subscribe at trendsresearch.com. We've got links up at infowars.com. But I want to go back to what you were just saying. You know, I sit here and marvel at the stock market being, in the aggregate and with inflation, way below what it was 10 years ago. Because, you know, those stocks are valued in devalued dollars, so it's actually way down according to the economists we've interviewed. I want you to talk about that. But I go back to studying history. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist. It's like you said, you don't have to be a genius. You just got to have common sense and know when you're being sold a line of baloney. I remember in '99, CNN saying what a great deal it was to buy Enron. And the news was already out. It was a scam. So they're there to sucker people, and they just keep selling this poison. But I remember gold when it was $268 an ounce back 11 years ago, 10 years ago. And I remember having very little money and buying my first gold coin from Ted Anderson, first pieces of silver, you know, when silver was $5 an ounce. Now it's 24 plus today, gold right at almost 1,400. You know, it should be there soon. 1,378 or 1,380. It's in fact, pull up Kitco, folks, or Genesis or Midas. We'll put that up so we get the current numbers. It's just about to open, or just did. But and in foreign markets, it's even above that. And it's just so simple. If gold for 1980 inflation was supposed to be about 1,500 10 years ago, now it's supposed to be 2,500. And they're devaluing the currency, and we're going into debt, and they're selling derivatives, and all of this is going on, and all of this is happening. It doesn't take a genius to go, well, let me see, gold's $268 an ounce. I'm going to buy some. And I bought it when it was 300 and 400 and 500 and 600 and 700 and 800 and 900 and 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300. I never sold any of it. And there I am sitting on 4 times the profit. It's an emergency super backup. If everything completely collapses, I'm going to dump it into keeping this going. There's not much of it, but it's a little bit I accumulated, mainly silver over the years. And I will sit there with family and yuppies and other people when gold was 500, 600, 700, 800. And I'll go, listen, you need to get into gold. And they will laugh at me and say, oh, yeah, right. And I'm like, but it's already performing. And they just, it's like, it's a religion of being conned. It's a religion of being screwed. And I know that con artists, because I've read about them, talk about the fact that they love the mark, or like a gambler at a casino, the more they lose, the more they bet. It's like it's a religion of being a chump. Now, I've been ranting about that, but can you speak to that mindset of just people that want to be hurt? They think it's cute to be conned. I mean, what's wrong with these people?
They've lost their self-respect. People are looking for other people to lead them. How could adults think like this? I began to watch some of that debate from those lightweights that are running for governor in Delaware. What's her name? O'Connell, whatever her name is, and the other guy. It was like high school, man. I'm listening to these people reading. I mean, come on. How could an adult spend time listening to this? Turn on the TV the next day, and the pundits are analyzing the stupidity the night before. Let's think about gold and why people are conned. You know, the media's favorite Dr. Doom, one of the white shoe boys, Nouriel Roubini, who keeps flip-flopping all along, by the way, with his forecasts. Go back to 2009. Roubini said that gold may go over $1,100 an ounce. And that anybody that thinks it's going to go to 2,000, it's pure nonsense. Listen to Warren Buffett, everybody's beloved money junkie billionaire. I want more money. Oh, that guy, yeah. Yeah, when he said, oh, gold is nice, you dig it out of the ground in Africa, and then you need somebody to guard it. But, you know, rather than that, it doesn't have any value. Oh, yeah, like what he's doing really creates value, buying up other companies, amassing billions so he could be the greediest pig on earth. Oh, that's real value. And then you listen to his henchman, that guy Charlie what's-in-a-name Munger, his number 2 guy. He doesn't believe in gold, he said. And anybody that does is a jerk. You go one after another. Bernanke. Yeah, that Princeton guy. I don't understand why.
All right, we lost our connection to Gerald Celente right in the middle of a key rant, and we're going to get him reconnected via video Skype and have him complete his comment. We got an hour and 20 minutes left with him. Absolutely amazing to have him on. But I'm really going to pick his brain about the economy, more predictions, where he sees everything going. Please don't forget, we have about $170,000 to raise in the next 6-7 hours, and we're going to reach our goal. Now, I'm sure another $50,000 or so will come in the mail. I mean, look, you got to give to receive. It's very simple. I've given my time. I've made the films, put them out for free. You know, I could have charged $100 a ticket for these 2 sold-out shows in California, or one sold out, the other's about to be sold out. But I said, let's just charge what it costs, and it came out to $10. So I make some weird decisions. But the point is, I hope you will support us by donating at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or by calling 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. We've got great InfoWars crew right here in our office answering the phones, whether it's $1 or whether it's $1,000. You know, it's time for the middle class that's left out there to really get into the info war. The government takes your money and gives it to big foundations and give it to media and mainstream media to fund brainwashing. We don't put a gun to your head. We're here saying, please support us. So Infowars.com. You can link through to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com there, or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former head of policy at the Treasury, father of Reaganomics, is going to be joining us via video Skype as well. Gerald Celente joining us from New York State, in the capital there, the operation at trendsresearch.com. And by the capital, he's out in the countryside, basically. I mean, the capital of sanity there in New York. So he'll be joining us. Did we get him reconnected yet? Okay, great. We just got him back. Hey, we went for 20, 30 minutes without the Skype video connection cutting out. But I mean, I was making the point about yuppies and people and even family. And I'm like, gold's 400. It's going to go up, 7 years ago. And they're like, oh, whatever. And then it's 800, and they still, and it's like they sit there and watch TV and think they're smart. They're insiders. Warren Buffett, who sets up this scam to fleece them and to get them into these, suckers markets. And they value being raped. Please continue with the point you made about all the experts. They're wrong all the time, and that's why they're the experts. And then anybody who's right all the time like you, well, you're evil, Gerald.
Yeah. You see what's going on with these so-called experts is they want everybody to keep playing their game. And they belittle people like Nouriel Roubini belittles people who want to buy gold. And he said, if you really think there's going to be an economic meltdown, then you should buy ammunition and guns and hide in your log cabin. You see, even when these billionaires, if they lost 90% of what they had, what would they be left with to squeak by? A mere 100 million? So what they're so far removed, Alex, from the rest of society. You look at the presidents and the secretaries of this and that. Every time they arrive someplace, they roll out a red carpet. They have serfs and slaves, these senators, all around them. They're so far removed from the average person that they think that what they put the message out, that just listen to us. We know better than you do. If you're taking measures to protect yourself, you have this needless fear. The only thing that you should fear are those terrorists, and we're protecting you against that. So they're draining from people the self-respect, the dignity, the courage, and the passion to be themselves. And that's what I was saying earlier. Until people break the chains, whether it's the chain stores or the chain thinking, then they're doomed. And we're going to see, just like the last Black Plague, we're going to see a good portion of society eliminated. The strong are going to survive, the mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Gerald, when we're dealing with the level of corruption and the financial mafia, they've sold pension funds, the Europeans, the Chinese, trillions of dollars of the, for the listeners that just tuned in, made up basically counterfeit garbage. And now we learn they're not just selling the same mortgage 5, 10 times to each other. They're taking thousands of homes they don't even own. It's not just they don't have the deed or you got two banks trying to foreclose on the same house. These are paid-for houses. That's even on CNN. They're taking paid-for houses, and they're now suspending many of the foreclosures while they try to pass a law to allow them to break previous laws. It's like Bloomberg a few months ago came out and reported that Prudential admitted in federal court they'd signed a secret deal and were finally forced to say, hey, look, you can't get us. I've got to get out of jail free card. They signed a deal 11 years ago along with other big insurers to take the death benefits and not pay them out to 6 million veterans from World War III to today. And that's just with Prudential, 6 million. So they have people paying into these death benefits, insurance, and then they don't even pay it. I mean, these guys, they really are bank-robbing criminals, but it's so bold. Can you speak to the whole mortgage situation and just all of it and where you see this confluence going? I mean, you've already forecasted the collapse, where we're going in December, what's happening next year, but go over that and fine-tune it now because we're further down the road and where you see all this going.
Well, just as you mentioned with Prudential, these people are money junkies, and that's what I keep saying. They're addicts. They can't get enough. It's like any junkie. There's no bounds or boundaries. All you need is your fix. You'll lie, you'll cheat, you steal. And that's all this country's turned into. From top to bottom, by the way. It's whether the person down at the bottom is ripping it off for welfare or going on disability, to the people up in the top that are robbing big time. So let's put it into context. We hear one of the 59th, I think, richest person on the Forbes 400 list, Stephen Schwarzman from Blackstone Group. He's complaining about they may have to pay more taxes. And this is his quote. He said it was the equivalent of the Nazis invading Poland. Remember, the 59th richest guy in the country complaining that they may take a little more of his heroin, and he's comparing it to the tragedy of World War II when people are, the country's destroyed, tens of millions are killed, and this little miserable piece of crap complains that he might not have all the money he wants. That's the level of sickness. Guess what, Alex? If I said something like that, they would accuse me of being a Holocaust denier because that's the level it's at. So the sickness is perpetuated in society, and what do? You bring Schwarzman on MSNBC, put him on CNBC, and you'll watch all of those anchor wankers kiss his feet, and grovel for him. That's the sickness that has inflicted this country. When you have slime like Schwartzman comparing him getting taxed to the Nazis invading Poland. So when we're looking at the banks ripping everybody off, when are they gonna wake up? You're late 2 days on your credit card, they whack you with a 30% fee. Your interest rates, when I was a kid, they complained about the mafia. What mafia? The mafia's on Wall Street. Who gets away with charging interest rates like this? And who's doing it? The politicians. Because they are the worst suck-ups on the planet. The only way they get to where they are is by becoming people that have no spines, no backbones, and there's no level of humiliation too great for them to endure. They're not men. They're Elliot Spitzers. You know that guy that now has that show on CNN? The guy that was governor of New York. The guy that passed the John Law. If you got caught hooking up with a prostitute, you get busted, Jack or John, except if you're Elliot Spitzer, fork over thousands of bucks for a chick, then you get busted and you drag your wife out onto the national stage and, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. What kind of man is that? Look at that old clown they had out there. John Edwards. Remember him? The man that wanted to be president? That white boy, whiter than white, with that neatly parted hair that came from that moral, background of hard-working, everyday people. Yeah, he gets caught with a chick, too, and what does he do? He cries like a little baby. Oh, I got caught. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's not a man in the White House, hasn't been for a long time. There are hardly any men in Congress. Yeah, there's the Ron Paul. And Kucinich, forget him. He sold out on Obamacare. He got a ride on a plane. The only guy that I have any respect for out there that I know of is Ron Paul. The rest of them, you can have them.
Well, can you believe Kucinich for a stupid airplane ride? Talk about the devil taking Christ up on the mountain. Talk about selling out cheap. But, Kucinich has done some good things, but he's got it wrong, He's something fundamentally wrong with him when he said ban handguns. You got to have a screw loose to say disarm the American people. Gerald, I want to specifically to take calls in the next hour for people that are holding. It's 888-201-2244, 888-201-2244. Specific, quick questions for Gerald Celente, 888-201-2244. Got a lot of folks holding over from Keiser, some of the same issues, but if you don't want to have a specific question for Gerald, hang up and we'll get to other people. But if you do have a question for him, please stay on the hold. We want to talk to you. But please, I know you're always covering the latest info, but specifically, you talked about it becoming very clear we're in a depression and the collapse accelerating by the end of this year. If that isn't very obvious now, how do you see this trends forecasting? How do you see it breaking down? And how do you see the system countering? And I've now got all these newscasts where they're going, the Army's training to know how to run our local city and help us. Oh, the Army and Marines are running checkpoints. They're getting us ready for civil unrest because of the collapsing economy. Did you say Gerald's connection dropped again?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. You guys had said something in my ear. So Gerald, what's your take on that? Because you can clearly see when they pass Glass-Steagall, they start quietly militarizing the police, building up force. That's when I saw it start, really accelerate. And then now they're just like announcing, the Army's going to be dropping by. So clearly they think they're going to get away with all this. So how do you see this unraveling?
Well, the way we see it, it's not going to be a clear path. Remember what I was saying some months ago. Go back to 9/11. 9/11 hits, what happened? One of the first things, they closed down Wall Street. If you had certificates of deposit, you couldn't get them out. 9/11 hits, what happened? One of the first things, they closed down Wall Street. If you had certificates of deposit, you couldn't get them out. 9/11 hits, what happened? One of the first things, they closed down Wall Street. If you had certificates of deposit, you couldn't get them out. I know because I tried. I've told the story many times. This time, we're going to... How can we not have a terror strike? They're sending Predator missiles into Pakistan on a daily basis, 4 in one day this past week. You're going to see a terrorist strike. When they do that, we believe they're going to close the banks. Their card that they continually play is the fear card. So what we're looking for, as this is collapsing, they're going to take our mind off it. And it's going to be, we believe, and I said this right from the beginning on the Bush. I called it the bailout bubble. When this bubble collapses, the next thing they do is take you to war. So rather than letting the people see and understand that they are the ones that, in fact, that have brought down the country, they're going to blame those other people out there. Look how the whole nation got caught up with this clown down in Gainesville, Florida, that wanted to burn a couple of Korans. Look how the hatred seeped into right away and focused on this imbecile and his idiot plot. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to try to divert the people's attention. In the meantime, the Titanic is sinking. It's hit the iceberg. But boy, they're going to play that band and say how wonderful the music sounds, and most of the people are going to be diverted because we believe there's going to be a geopolitical issue of some magnitude that's going to divert the people's attention from the financial crisis and the misery that they're living in.
Well said. And the globalists are really psychological warfare experts. They've told everybody it's not proper to criticize the big Wall Street banks that are robbing you. It's not proper to criticize local government corruption. None of that exists. There's no corruption in government. The Founding Fathers were wrong. Bow down and worship it. But we know you're angry and upset, so here's this scapegoat. You know, here's these brown people, here's these Muslims, and we've got 1,000 Predator drones bombing every wedding we can. I had the former head of Pakistani intelligence on. He agreed they're trying to destabilize and actually cause people to fight back. And then that's called terrorism. And then people are like, well, they're taking my house and everything. But I love the government because that's America. The government's America, which it isn't. And so nuke some Arabs. They're not even Arabs in Pakistan, but they don't care. They'll be like, get them over there in Iraq. They're like, it's Pakistan. Yeah, get Japan too. And, I mean, it's just this mind, and then all the American flags will be out everywhere, but what the flag symbolizes is dying, and there'll be lots of crying and candlelight vigils, and, you know, and if they can't get the Muslims to come over here and blow something up, they'll finance some criminal group with a bunch of nutcases who are being paid to do it, or they'll just do it themselves, and everybody will feel real good, and we're going into a depression, and the bankers are taking our pension funds, but at least we get to kill some brown people, Gerald. It feels good to be an American, doesn't it, Gerald?
You got it. That's what they're going to start doing, and they do it all the time. And understand as well, Alex, that the American military are a bunch of losers. And anybody that thinks they're going to protect them, just check out what's going on. They're 10 years into this war in Afghanistan. Hey, whatever happened to Osama bin Laden? I remember there used to be Father Guido Sarducci. He used to do this thing, find the face of the Pope on the pizza. Yeah, find bin Laden on the pizza. These guys can't beat a bunch of guys over there with light arms, you know, with sandals. And this is a military that once defeated the Germans, you know, at the Battle of the Bulge. That's the military today. And they're taking the poorest of these kids from these small countries and sacrificing their lives. I've been around a while. There never was a thing called a military contractor. This is a racket going on over there. This isn't a war.
Well, Gerald, now in the federal cases, it's come out in depositions exactly what the Iraqis said 7 years ago about Blackwater, now XE. They said they drive around and shoot us for fun. We saw other contractors release videos of just sitting there laughing, shooting families in minivans. I mean, it's all over YouTube, folks. It's hard to watch, blaring Elvis in the background. And now it's come out in court from Blackwater people that it's rooms full of men, no women, running around naked with piles of cocaine like Tony Montana. It's described as huge piles, injecting steroids, and then going out and shooting up people's cars and homes and laughing. And the Iraqis go to the police, who are just puppets, and say, bring us justice. And they're told, sit down and shut up and breathe DU. And you've got all these special forces guys, former special forces that they all laud, and G.I. Joe, he's America's hero. No. If you know, the real guys, they test them, find out they're patriots. They send them off to be injected, you know, with whatever, and, you know, put them as a file clerk. But they find the psychopaths, the bullies. And these bullies are so crazy that when there's a real battle, they turn and run. But when they're shooting up a car full of little kids, man, they get off on it. It's like those helicopter pilots laughing at the dead kids and the kids they've just shot up, and the Reuters reporter, and because they're up in their helicopters, but then the real men show up and are trying to help the children as they're bleeding, and you hear the helicopter pilots laughing, saying, shouldn't bring kids to a battle. It wasn't a battle. They were just flying around, blowing up minivans and people with video cameras. And you know, even if you in crossfire, collateral damage, kill kids, you don't, or hurt kids, shoot them up with a big cannon. You don't sit there and laugh about it. I mean, these guys are scum. And I'm not talking about the whole military, but I'm talking about the types they promote, the types they want. You know, they are cowards without their black uniforms, just like corrupt cops, without all their trinkets. You know what? You know what? I mean, you know what? Let's strip down to loincloths and pick up swords and see who wins this fight. You know, I'm not a tough guy, but I'll tell you right now, you know, you get into a fight with me, I'm ready to beat the living daylights out of you if you're a bully and attacking me. I can't hurt a fly if somebody isn't attacking me, but you attack me, I am a savage caveman. These guys are cowards, and I can see it in their eyes, Gerald, and that's who they're promoting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and just to stay on that line, we're going to see more and more of it happen in this country. Everybody knows it already. Look at what's going on with so many of the police. They have to keep their jobs. They have quotas to meet. We saw it in the reports in New York. They came out, they were on tape talking about it. So what they're doing now is they're squeezing the little people. And they're going to continue to squeeze harder and harder, bust you for any little provocation or infraction, while the big guys get a free ride. Why is it, Alex, that every one of these drug dealers with these major companies, these pharmaceutical companies, that get busted for lying and cooking the books on the test that they did, showing that these drugs were deadly, why do the Goldman Sachs gang and all these others that get busted for criminal activities, how come none of them ever do any time? How come? And how come if you get caught having 2 drinks and you go over that yellow line and get stopped at a checkpoint, boy, they got handcuffs on you, they're slapping you against the car, and they're dragging you off to jail. That's what's happening to America, and it's going to get worse. Just like they busted that little kid in Oregon, remember that? Selling lemonade because she didn't have a $140 license to sell lemonade. Boy, she better mark that stuff up. And what did the guy do that's the health inspector? Well, you know, we got to protect the people, whether it's somebody small or somebody big. Yeah, like Auschwitz Farm eggs over there, this $500 million that they recalled. Alex, how many times was the FDA there in a year? None.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to this overall issue, you've got the Mexican drug cartels, the government fighting with them over the drug money. You've got a woman seeing her husband killed, And now the investigators had his head cut off, and the media is still trying to deny that anybody was killed when Falcon Lakes had a bunch of people attacked on it, you know, going back 6 months ago. 28,000 plus deaths on the border in the last 3 years, 2.5 years. And there's this automatic denial. I mean, they might as well call the border itself a conspiracy theory and just tell people it doesn't exist or something, or Mexico doesn't exist. I mean, it is this massive, complete, willful denial of reality, and they've pulled the Border Patrol back 10 miles from the border. The police are scared to death, but when they're pulling over an old lady shaking her down, they feel real tough, and it's all bluster. It's all hat and no cattle, like we say here in you know, Texas, and it's just so scary to see it. And like you talked about the drugs, it comes out these big drug makers with the New Freedom Initiative are in the schools, brainwashing kids as a market. They got 20% on these drugs. They want half of them on the drugs on their own documents. They know it's causing heart problems, brain problems, suicide, and it comes out they internally know this, and they don't even get in trouble. And parents just send their kids to public school, where the school spies on the parents of the kids, trains the kids how to spy on their parents, and tries to put your kid on drugs. Or if they see a bruise on your daughter or son's knee, they try to take them from you, and you put up with pot-bellied pedophiles showing up at your house called CPS trying to take your kid because you're a good parent. Meanwhile, if it's CPS in New York or someplace, every time, you know, there's some crackhead, and they know that the 4-year-old weighs 15 pounds, and they let the baby, a 4-year-old who looks like a tiny baby, die in their own excrement in their bed. I mean, it just shows this government is filled with demonic pigs.
You know, a friend of mine just came down from Canada. We're about 4.5 hours south of Canada. And he stopped, he's getting to the border, he's Canadian, and he pulled over just before to tell his wife that he was going to be, he's almost into New York. And as he's there making the call, all of a sudden this guy comes up to him, his armed guy. "What are you doing?" Guess what? I'm just calling my wife. "Well, move on over here, you can't stay here." And, you know, he said, "Well, what's going on?" You know, and, you know, the guy was cool about it. You know, he didn't want to inflame the border security. He pulls up to go show his passport, and he gets the same routine over there. And you know what it was? They were afraid. It makes them uneasy to see somebody there. They were afraid. All of these armed people were afraid for some, you know, 75-year-old guy unparked, you know, texting. They're the ones that are afraid. And you talked about what's going on in Mexico. Yeah, it's going to be going on in the U.S. too. You talked about crack. Guess what? You have half the population graduating high schools to these major cities that in high school that can't graduate. You know what they're going to graduate into? What gang? And that's what you're going to start seeing more and more of. And you think they're going to blow your brains out for a fix for $10 for crack? You bet they will, because they're out of their minds. And that's the direction America's going in. The education system, what a joke. What a sick joke. If this education system was worth 2 cents, we wouldn't be in the problems that we have now. If this education system was working and wasn't a college industrial complex, you wouldn't have these kids going to NYU and be $120,000 in debt to have a degree in women's studies and religion. Who could make this up? So what we're looking at, Alex, is a continuation of a system, as you well pointed out, that is draining the people of their brains, that are telling them how to think, what to do, and how to behave. Listen, if I was born now, they would have had me whacked out on Ritalin a long time ago. And so what's happened is that by their deeds you shall know them. And the deed is this: the education system stinks. 90% of the teachers should have a job out there and go do something to earn a living. The whole thing has to be changed around. Here's the story. We have the internet revolution now. We have online learning, distance learning. Go to India, go to China. They're graduating engineers 10 times more than we're over here. If you want to have a kid, you're responsible for them, not me. So teach them at home. Stay at home and teach them. You have all this online stuff, and then maybe we'll send them to a centralized location to be brainwashed a couple of days a week. And who made up this stuff that when you go to college, you have to have a football team, a soccer team, a lacrosse team, a swimming team? You're supposed to go there to learn, not to pay some jerk a couple of $1 million a year as a coach for a football team. Here's the story, Alex. Just had an intern in here. She left. 4 years of college. She got a job in inside sales. Now, what's inside sales? Well, I call up clients that used to have accounts with us and try to renew their accounts. $32,000 a year. 4 years of college, a whole lot of debt. I said, did you have to go to college for this? Well, you know, one time they had a gallery opening at the college, and I was a hostess, so I learned how to work with people, and I thought I would be good on the phone. Maroon, I said to myself, who's making this stuff up?
And she's telling herself she learned how to deal with people because she was at one event at college. She could have gone and worked at a drugstore to learn how to deal with people. She could have...
Exactly. The whole college education is, unless you're going to be an engineer, you know, a specialty, an accountant, a doctor, you know, yeah, okay. And then we don't need any more lawyers. That's it. We don't need any more laws either. Bring back the laws that worked before. Bring back Glass-Steagall. Bring back the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Robertson-Patman Act that prohibited the Walmarts and all these other greedy pigs from robbing the country blind. Close down the state houses. We don't have to pay these. Who made up a line? I mean, how could you do? I'm a lawmaker. A lawmaker? We don't need any more laws. Get rid of them. Get rid of the laws. Put back the ones that work.
That's right. That's like implying they're Moses, the lawgiver. These are public servants. These are elected representatives. They're not lawmakers, officials, authorities. And I watched the newscast of, say, the Texas legislature, and it's all these effeminate men, you know, metrosexuals, all with their hair coiffed in these $5,000 suits. And they're so corrupt, they showed it on the news. In front of news cameras, they will sit there and vote multiple times, and they all, in fact, pull that up. Texas legislature, you know, vote multiple times. We might play a clip of it because you have to see it. And they'll just be like going like this, voting as many times as they can, looking at the other ones going, I'm going to beat you, and voting for others and reaching over to other people's buttons. I mean, it's like a bunch of demonic monkeys.
Well, you know, Alex, I tell this story. The worst job I ever had in my life was... And I grew up in the Bronx and Yonkers. You can imagine the jobs I had. Was when I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. And I used to be involved in politics in Westchester County. And they would brought me up to Albany to groom me. Could you imagine? I'd be chit-chatting in the back with my buddy. You know, I was a guy in my 20s. You know, talking about what guys talk about those days. And when you're that age. And a senator would walk in. And all of a sudden, these big doors would open up. You have a flunky opening the doors. The senator would walk in, and my buddy would leave me and follow the senator like a little puppy dog and pull out the chair to help him sit down. So my friend would come back, and I'd say, hey, what's the matter? I say, a cat can't sit down by himself. He needs some help. And that's how I got the inside look. I saw who these people are. All they do, all it is sucking up to the top. You talk about the effeminate nature. How about that Lindsey Graham? You know, that cracker from South Carolina over there. The tough-talking Lindsey Graham. He wants to go bomb Iran if we have to. Hey, Lindsey, Pack up your gear and go lead the charge. How about that? So that's what we have here, Alex. We have a bunch of people that don't have the guts to stand up and take one step forward. Get the guy in the White House on the white horse to lead the charge into Iraq, into Afghanistan.
Well, the only thing Lindsey Graham reportedly is going to do is lead a charge into the men's bathroom with his friends.
Yeah, let these guys go fight, and then call them, then let them bring in the others to come in behind them. Now, this is disgusting what's going on.
All right, we've got 45 minutes left with Gerald Celente, and I want to go to Dana, Julio. In fact, Julio will be first, then Dana, and then David, Zach, Jeff, and Adam. We'll at least get to those 7-8 calls. We've got unlimited coming in the phone banks, but it's always wonderful to have Gerald Celente from trendsresearch.com on with us. I want to briefly remind everybody, we're trying to raise $500,000 to finish the studio, to expand the next level. We know things are rough and tough. Buy the books, the videos, support us. But, I mean, this is an info war, and I want to commend all those that have given. But for those that are on the fence, there's no half measures here. Don't wish later you would have done more. You know, they give all these millions to these politicians and all the rest of it. It's a joke. We are here, one of the most important platforms, bar none, bringing you all these incredible minds. And we need to go to the next level and just basically continue what we're doing, but hopefully go to the next level here. And we need to hit that goal, and I think we're going to do it. But go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And, you know, if you're watching this later on YouTube in a few days, the site will still be up there. You know, we try to raise it all in one day, but hopefully we'll hit 500,000 by, you know, next week when some more of the mail comes in. But we're at $322,000 right now, so we roughly need to raise about, you know, about $178,000 to be able to just continue basically what we're doing and finish the little studio, so we can go to the next level against the globalists. So InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. What hour are we into the live transmission here now? We can put that up on screen. We're into hour number, I forget, hour number 21. We're going for 27 hours here, so only 6 hours left to try to get that in, and I really appreciate all of you for your support. Gerald, I don't want to hog you here, but any other trends in the fall issue, anything else you think just briefly is really important? Where do you see gold going? Again, where do you see this mortgage thing going?
We see gold going to 2,000 an ounce. It could, of course, it could go much higher, but we believe that before it goes higher than that, the government will take measures to stop it from rising or take it away from the people, as they have done before. So that's why we're putting the level on that. As far as the mortgage, it's just more of the collapse going on. They made the banks bigger with the too big to fails. They're running the country. Wall Street has hijacked Washington. Any adult could see it. And by the way, if you want to know how bad it is, remember the brilliant Larry Summers? You can never say his name without saying brilliant, either before, after, or in the middle. He was Obama's chief economic advisor. Well, that's another Obama rat that jumped ship. His brilliant strategy didn't work. And Christina Roma, the other brilliant one over there, that was his other economic advisor. That Obama rat jumped ship. Peter Orszag, that other brilliant economic guy, that's an Obama rat that jumped ship. Rahm Emanuel, the rat of rats, he's jumped ship. The Obama rats are jumping ship. If you see the top rats jumping, guess what, folks? It's really bad. Oh, and by the way, Alex, when we get off the air, we're going to make a donation as well. And I urge everyone out there to do everything you can. This is one of the best voices out there that brings so much together, really puts his neck on the line, and takes no prisoners. And he's a real man because he said it the way it is. He wouldn't hurt a fly. But if you attack him, be prepared to go to the end because he ain't going down. And how many politicians out there can say that? They're a bunch of wimps, these other guys. You know why they're tough? Because they have a phalanx of guards around them. So do what you can to bring this to another level. And it's tough times for everyone. But dollars or tens of dollars or 50s of dollars will help move this forward. And you can count on us and the people on our staff to donate, Alex.
Well, you're awesome, Gerald. Thank you so much. I just, you know, it's hard not having the big globalist backing and all the taxpayer money that gets funneled and laundered to the mainstream media. That's now declassified. You know, they said what? You know, the Bush fake news scandal that was billions a year, over $10 billion, and the government accounting office and others said this is clearly illegal, but now it's even expanded, and we don't have that funding. We don't have the foundation funding. We don't have it. We do this once a year, and it's just scary, Gerald, to have the audience triple but see revenue go down. I mean, that lets you know how real the depression is. When some of my favorite restaurants have closed and places I've been going since I was in high school are gone, and everybody I know is tightening their belt. And all these college graduates and even professionals and engineers I know, you know, losing their jobs. And I live in one of the better cities in the country. And then the media told me 3 weeks ago, the Obama administration said that the recession ended in June of last year.
I know. You can't make this stuff up. The old Soviet Union days, you know, would have looked good compared to the propaganda that they're putting out now. And how about that vice president of propaganda, Joe Biden? What, did everybody miss it? This was the summer of recovery. How can they get away with this stuff over and over again? So, yeah, with the Trends Journal, we've said this, Alex, that this was the grasshopper and ant summer. The grasshoppers are still jumping around, looking at the stock market, a rigged game. And get this. 40% of the profits, by the way, are being made overseas. So these multinationals that you're seeing driving up the stock market, they ain't making the dough over here. And that's the other fallacy. I want to make this really clear. You think it's so great in China? Nah, nah, nah. When the U.S. collapses, when the giant falls, the earth will tremble. This is going global. And as it goes global, it's really going to get ugly. That newspaper record, the New York Times, which I call the toilet paper of record, because after all, they call what I do pessimism porn. When they had those major protests going on in Europe back in end of September, September 29th, the next day, this is on page 6, buried below a story about how bad Iran is. They had the story of the protests going on throughout all of Europe. Here's how it began, Alex. Madrid. Thousands of people took to the streets in protest in capitals throughout Europe. Thousands? Hey, man, 10 million alone in Spain. That's not a slip-up. That's a lie. That's propaganda. Thousands, it's not even hundreds of thousands. It was millions, tens of millions. The global system is collapsing. They're beating them up again today in Greece. They're still striking in France. Oh, and I love it how the Americans make fun of the French. You know, they have early retirement, and they're complaining they want to make it, they want to take it away from them. Oh, those French. Yeah, the French are smart. Go to France. It's one of the most, Paris is one of the most beautiful cities on earth. You know why? Because the people know the score. These are the people that invented the guillotine. They know how greedy the rich could become. So they say to themselves, look, we know you're doing all these deals out there. We just want our share. You can't be a Schwartzman in France. You can't be a Buffett in France. You can't be a Gates. You can't be a Munger because you guys are ripping off the system and you're enslaving us, and we don't like it.
Well, people call the French wimps, but every time they try to plant GMO crops over there, the farmers just get up at night and they go out and burn it down. And
That's right, because they know what quality is. Look at the way they live. Look at what happened to this country. The people show up looking like pigs everywhere they go. Casual Fridays. How about every day sloppy? What happened to the dignity? And until the people regain the dignity and respect, they're going to be walked over and trampled. You know why they don't demonstrate like they do over here, over here? You know why. Because they call the goon squads out. They put the guys up, the agents provocateurs in their black stocking faces and go smash windows and burn cars to make it look like the people are unruly. The people are afraid in this country. They're afraid to speak out. And that's why people need to support you, because you speak out. And people like myself and Paul Craig Roberts and Chapman and Keiser. We're the voices out there, but we're not saying follow me. We're saying start thinking for yourself. Start taking measures. Become part of the 20% solution. Invent the future. Break the chains. This country could regain its greatness, Alex. I know it can, and that's the mission that we're on. To rejuvenate America, to bring it back to the spirit that we used to have. I know the stories about genocide, and I know the stories about how terribly we treated the blacks. I remember as a kid taking the ferry from Washington, the Chesapeake Bay Ferry, and seeing the sign at 13 years old for whites only. I know about that. But having said all that, we were the greatest country on earth. We were a country of quality. Quality. We were the envy of the earth. We can rediscover a rebirth following the plague. Ale Romana e alla Antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients. Let's bring back the greats that made this country great before and bring ourselves up from the snooky, stupid level that you hear the president talking about and these windbags on TV babbling about.
Beautifully said, Gerald Celente of TrendsResearch.com. And if you want to support us and be part of this fight, help and support people that are putting out, real information. Plus, you'll be helping yourself with the Trends Journal. I mean, that's the point. Look at the advice people get on the show. Look at the information. Look at the value. Some of you haven't put it into function. Many of you have and have thanked us. If you've gotten valuable information from this show, if you want to see it continue and expand, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com. Go and donate right now. We're doing very well. I'm very pleased, but we need to reach that goal here in the next 6 hours. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139. Gerald, I'm going to give you about a 5-6 minute break. We're going to play a clip of Ron Paul from a speech he gave a few days ago. He was also here on the show, obviously, this week. We had Lou Dobbs earlier yesterday. It's still today because I'm still up here. And we're going to take about a 5-minute break with this video to give you a break and give myself a break. I'm drinking too much coffee here, and, well, you know what I got to do. So we're going to take care of that business. And then we're going to come back and get to every caller with your quick question or comment and a response from Gerald Celente. And Gerald, I really appreciate you honoring us with your presence and all your time. We just appreciate your gravitas and your, down-home smarts and common sense. So Gerald Celente joining us via video Skype. We'll continue with this live 27-hour transmission in about 6 minutes when we come back. We'll talk to you then, Gerald.
Okay.
All right, here's Ron Paul.
So if we are for balanced budgets, as I assume we are, and if we're for limited government, you can't pick and choose. You can't say, well, let's cut this program, let's cut this program. We can cut the food stamps for the poor, but you don't cut the food stamps for the rich. You don't cut the food stamps for the overseas partners that we have. What you have to do is you cut government back to its constitutional size. That's what you need. I believe that's what the Tea Party movement's all about, is cutting it back to its size, believing in the Constitution. It is great. There's a 10th Amendment movement. Isn't this fantastic? Isn't it great that we're talking about sound money again and the gold standard? These are all wonderful things happening. Isn't it amazing that we're talking about the constitutional right for the states to nullify bad federal laws? This, to me, is rather amazing. I went to Congress quite a few years ago, and I believe my role would be to go and vote the way I promised, the way the Constitution says, even if I would be alone, and that not much would happen, that it would be probably not noticed, and someday I would go back home and hopefully leave a record that people would notice someday in the future. Today, though, I am pleasantly surprised to find out there are so many of you who really care, and you're sick and tired of what you have in Washington, D.C. The purpose, as far as I'm concerned, for all political action is to preserve liberty. That should be the goal. It shouldn't be for any special interest. Preserving liberty means you have a strong national defense and you have free markets and property rights and all these things. That is what the Constitution was written for, and it had a lot of prohibitions. Not against the people. The prohibitions are on the government, not the people. So if we can do that, if we can achieve that, that we preserve our liberties, what is the purpose of liberty? Well, that is the key. The purpose of liberty is to make ourselves better people. That gives us the opportunity to work for excellence and virtue, which should be the goal of all of us in our lives. Because governments, once they get involved in dealing with making you more virtuous and more excellent person, or more economically equal among you, the government can't do any of that without undermining your liberties. If our government decides that, well, we have to solve the problems of the world, we have to impose our goodness around the world, therefore you have to undermine somebody else's liberty. And you know what? Besides, when government embarks on any of those efforts, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What we need is to restore the confidence in this country and the people that freedom works, that freedom is the solution to our problems, that our liberties ought to be protected. Now, sometimes it's easy. Everybody's for freedom. I've never met anybody in Washington say, oh, I'm not for freedom. You know, I've never heard of a congressman running for Congress say, oh, I don't plan to uphold the Constitution. No, they're all for the Constitution. They're all for limited government. They're all for freedom. So we have to be very precise. What does it mean to have liberty? To me, if I have liberty and you have liberty, guess where the responsibility falls? Falls on you, the individual. Falls on you to take care of yourself. It falls on you to assume that if you work hard, you can reap the rewards of your hard effort. And that would be a tremendous incentive. That is what gave us the great prosperity of this country. This idea that we could have this incentive and actually keep what we have, keep what we earn. But you know, there's another thing about liberty, and then sometimes there's parts of liberty that nobody wants to concede that is the case. Actually, what liberty does, it allows you to make all choices in all matters. It means, of course, that you can spend your money, even when you waste your money. The government can't come in and say, quit wasting your money. The liberal side say, no, we have to tell the people how to spend their money. We have to regulate every consumption item because somebody's going to take advantage of the people and therefore abuse the people, so that we need regulators. I had one congressman tell me once, I said, why are you voting for this bill? Why do we have to tell the people what they can do and can't do? He says, you know what? He says, people are too stupid. And believe me, that is an attitude that prevails in Washington. Anybody that advocates big government, a lot of laws and a lot of regulations, a lot of taxation, they believe you are not capable of taking care of yourself. And that is what has to be reversed. because we sat on our hands for so long and made those assumptions, we carelessly allowed things to flow. We've lost a lot of our liberties, and they're being continually challenged. So we have to look at this. We want you to be able to spend your money as you choose, but also what you do with your life. We know that the government's not supposed to deal with your religious values, what you put into your soul or into your mind. You're allowed to read things as you choose. But why is it that so often we think it's okay for the government to tell us what we can put in our mouths or put in our lungs or put in our body? And assume that, oh, the government will take care of us. So therefore, you have government at the federal level telling you, for instance, that it is your best interest that we tell you that you're not allowed to drink raw milk. That's how they're going to protect you. Now, you take, for instance, in the drug war, which, if you're caring about liberty, you have to address the subject about how the drug war undermines personal liberties. But the drug war has drifted over into the total curtailment of the growing of hemp. You know, hemp is a great product, but it competes with other products that are subsidized by the government, and they don't want competition. Hemp is related to marijuana, but if you want to smoke hemp, you need a cigarette as big as a phone pole to get anything that you would feel any changes on. And here we are on this sanity course of saying nobody can grow hemp, a fantastic product that makes many, many different products, where we begged and pleaded for our farmers to grow during World War II. So it's those kind of things that spill over. In this effort to regulate behavior for so-called good reasons also has many unintended consequences.
We're going to play the rest of that ahead of Webster Tarpley, economist and doctor of history. And we've also got Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who works with the Trends Research Group, trendsresearch.com. And we've got only about 27 minutes left with Gerald Celente. And we're very honored to have him and appreciate his time. I want to thank him for all of his support here at the 2010 Money Bomb, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or 888-253-3139 if you want to donate. The folks are waiting up there to take your calls. I want to thank everybody that has been donating and spreading the word. Gerald, good to have you back with us. You ready to go to calls?
I am. Just so I'd like to make one comment. Along with Ron Paul, you know who else I really respect out there, and I'm on his show quite frequently, is Judge Andrew Napolitano. I mean, this guy really says it the way it is. And I share a lot of what he believes. And I'll tell you that the dream ticket that I would have for president and cabinet of the United States would be a Napolitano or Ron Paul and a Ralph Nader. And to bring that kind of thinking together into one administration. And with Paul Craig Roberts, by the way, as you mentioned, he's writing with the Trends Research Institute. We're going to be sending out a trend alert that Dr. Roberts just wrote. And that'll be going out later today, or latest early tomorrow morning.
Amazing to see all these great patriots and minds teaming up. It's beautiful, Gerald.
Yeah.
As you said, we don't know what we've got till it's gone, and for every action, there's an equal reaction. As all this tyranny and corruption comes up like a boil, a lot of good things are happening as well. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 calls. We'll take those. I may twist a few minutes out of extra before we go to Tarpley, but he's got to go. He's got other interviews and work to do. He just dropped again with his video Skype connection, so let's get him back on and get to these calls. It's only dropped twice today, so that's a record good. But it's great to have the video and actually, have him here for all the viewers. Free video streams up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. The Money Bomb's got 6 hours left in it. And we want to ask everybody to, if you can't donate, send the link to the free video feed from Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. It's right there in the featured news area. It says free Infowars.com Money Bomb feed. Send that video link, that page link to everybody. The free audio streams of the show. And we're going to kick off on all the AM and FM stations that are about to pick us back up at 11 when we do the regular transmission. And try to get us up to that $500,000 mark. But we're getting Gerald Celente of Trends Research back on right now and then going directly to your calls. Gerald Celente is here with us. Let's go to Julia, who's been holding for a long time in Illinois. You're on the air with Gerald Celente. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I've been learning patience throughout the morning, but it's been awesome. You're doing a great job. Been with you pretty much the entire time, besides going to class and whatnot. And it's an honor to talk to Gerald. Gerald, I love your fire and your enthusiasm. It's really picking up my spirits today. And these globalists really are just people. They go to the bathroom. They do all the normal stuff we do. They just think they're higher than us, but we got to show them that, they're nothing but just little scum, even though the Lord says we can't necessarily hate them. We can still call them out on the lies that they do. Quickly, I want to talk before a question to Gerald about the eugenics operation here at my school at Western. They're giving away Fluorex vaccine from GlaxoSmithKline, which has formaldehyde in it, and pretty much they're not telling the students about the side effects when the document states that they're supposed to tell them. So
yeah, they're pushing this trash on everybody, and we proved the full flu shot was a hoax last year. What's your question for Gerald Celente?
Gerald, about the Mockingbird media, what trend do you see out of them to push internet censorship to shut up the alternative media? I'm an aspiring investigative journalist after hearing all of you guys. You guys are my
Yeah, that's a great question, Gerald. They're openly saying they want to shut us up so we can't because we're so effective.
They're going to do it. They're going to do their very best to do it. They're going to clamp down on the internet. And you hear President Obama complaining that people are getting bad advice from what's going on the internet. Oh, yeah, like you're getting top-notch stuff from CNN, NBC, and ABC. Oh, they're the voices of truth. Oh, no, the plan is underway, and it's going to be a fight. But again, what's going to happen, Alex, there's going to be something that's going to put that fear back into the fearful Americans, and they're going to buy into it. So there's going to be a fight for internet freedom, undoubtedly.
Yeah, it's going on now. Julio, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, man.
Okay, I want to say this to you in closing. And I'm going to let you go, but listen on the internet or watch at Infowars.com. I'm going to say this briefly and have Gerald comment, but I got to get to all these calls. He's got to leave us soon, but I at least want to get to these next 9 calls before he goes. It's so precious the time we have with him. And I apologize for getting him on 15 minutes late. We've gotten behind over this 24-plus hour broadcast that we're into here. I was going to college here in town, and it was literally indoctrination. It didn't matter if it was psychology or whether it was calculus or it was all world government. Government loves you. Government's good. Guns are bad. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go intern at a radio station. I'm going to go start an Access TV show. I'm just going to go on air. And I'm going to go out with a cheap camera, a used camera I bought for like $75, a VHS camera that had been made like in the late 80s. And this is in 1995. And I'm going to start doing interviews and showing government corruption. And it was an instant hit, instantly on talk radio locally, instantly syndicated. So you don't need, and it's good to be at college, that's great. But, whatever. I'm not saying it's totally bad, but you'll meet some people and stuff. You don't need a degree to be an investigative journalist. You need to do research, get involved, start a blog, start now, don't wait. Just get out there and use your mind. You're a smart guy. Gerald,
Amen. Amen. You got it. Yeah, you don't need to go to college to do this one.
Can I ask him for a request, Alex, quickly?
Is this Julio?
You play yourself asking David Gergen about Bohemian Grove. I'm sick of watching this man on the CIA News Network talking about, the lady in Delaware about witchcraft and slamming Rand Paul. People need to remember that the Mockingbird media are a part of the secret societies.
Julio, I hear you. Listen, I got to go to everybody else, but I appreciate your call. I don't have time to get into Gergen, that idiot, and all the rest of them. Okay, who's up next here? Dana in Illinois. You're on the air with Gerald Celente. Go ahead. Hey, Dana, go ahead.
Okay, I do want to thank you guys for all your dedication and everything that you've been doing. And I also wanted to ask a question. Have you guys seen the movie Wall Street? And if you have, what is your thoughts on it?
Well, I know Charlie Sheen, and I know he had a cameo in that before anybody else did. I was at his house like 3 years ago when he got the call from the director, Oliver Stone, and I knew the whole story before he did it. But I know I haven't gone out and seen the movie yet, but I did see the first one.
Yeah, well,
okay,
for me, it's a movie, big deal. Look what's going on. It's way worse than a movie if you just look what's happening out there. Again, just listen to what they say. Taxing people more, according to Steve Schwarzman, is the equivalent of the Nazis invading Poland. Do you need more than that?
Absolutely. Dana, what's on your mind? You have any questions for the premier global trends forecaster, Gerald Celente?
No, that's all. You guys covered everything.
Thank you, Dana. Yeah, they have these movies where, Gordon Gekko is trying to bring down companies. That's nothing. Stealing houses that are paid for where they don't even have the deed, taking the death benefits of dead and dying veterans, selling derivatives globally, the Federal Reserve telling Congress they won't say where trillions are. I mean, the true fraud, as you said, Gerald, makes Wall Street look like child's play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, how about this one? You're paying 30% interest rates. I mean, how many times do people have to get hit over the head? It's the whole thing.
And the banks are getting zero. They get it for zero, and then jack up your credit card to 30%.
Yeah. You think they can make money doing that?
I think they can, Gerald. Yeah.
You think,
I remember reading about the classic loan sharks and the mafia, charging 15, 20%, and it was outrageous. 30%?
Yeah, and it's the law.
Who's up next here in line, guys? David in Wisconsin, David in New Jersey. Which David? David in Wisconsin, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Gerald. And really a pleasure to be on your program this morning. I'm a relatively new listener inside a year. And my question is for Mr. Celente. I'll get right into them because I know you're pressed for time here. 10 minutes remaining, it looks like.
15.
Yeah, the government turning on the people. I'm an air traffic controller, 20-year veteran. I've been out of work now for three years fighting a legal battle. Basically, I had a bunch of people. I'm a gun owner up here in Wisconsin. We need a new governor, by the way. Hope we get one. And I'm a gun owner who a lot of people felt a certain way about. I won't get into details. But long story short, I was removed from my position with no criminal background, no intent. And I've been listening to Alex Jones now for quite a while about information about government turning on their own. And
well, hold on. I've read about Wisconsin. You guys have open carry, but if you do try to do it and exercise your right, they arrest you. Are you that guy?
Well, I'm the guy that's been accused of going to go postal on my job as an air traffic controller. I lost my job and everything, and I'm in a legal battle, depleting my own savings accounts that I've saved up over the last 15 years. 20-year veteran. I've been in Washington, Chicago. I've been everywhere, Pittsburgh. And I had some people here locally that turned on me and claimed that, well, his religion is weird. He's a Christian. He reads the Bible. He owns guns.
I mean, it's just like lawyers tell women. It's on record. Say he's threatening you, so we can put the restraining order on you, so we can kick him out of the house. Then he'll settle for more money in the divorce. This is a nation where they've trained everybody to basically just lie about everyone. What's your quick question for Gerald Celente?
I was leading into that because just give me a little background on myself there. Gerald, how do you feel about guys like me that have been working for our own government? And, we've done our job. I've even had a promotion to go back to Chicago Tower. And, people turning on us like this, stereotyping us psychologically. And that's another weird thing. I actually had to go to one of their doctors, and they gave me a diagnosis, which I've never had in my entire life and never been treated for anything. They insisted that I was being treated for something. It's a real weird case. I should be up.
Look, hold on. That's an old trick. They had a lot of war profiteering in World War II in the U.S. with junky planes and things. And if a pilot complained about the sticking or problems with things, they would just, give them a mental patient listing with the paid-for shrinks. So that's obviously your question dealing with that. Gerald Celente.
Well, it's anybody that steps out of line. If you don't tow it, you're gone. They'll cut you loose. And again, as the country conforms more and more into single think, single shop, single eat, single buy, if you're not with them, you're against them. You've heard that one before. So no, this is a time. But on the other end of it, as Alex pointed out, you can do it. You can create your own future. There's great opportunities there. And I would only suggest to you, having been involved in legal things before, that as much as you could move your life forward in a new direction, cut the past and move forward. Find a niche. There are plenty of them out there and plenty of them to be filled. So that would be my recommendation to you. Yeah, keep going and doing what you're doing, but also start looking for a new direction.
Exactly. You know, have a lot of different irons in the fire, and one's going to hit, some aren't. I mean, that's how you, I mean, it's kind of like putting a trot line out with 50 hooks on it. I mean, you know, when you get up in the morning, there's going to be some big catfish and bass and other things on it. I mean, you just put out 100 hooks and you're going to catch something, but you can't count on just one hook. Let's talk to David in New Jersey. David, you're on the air.
Get it up yet?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
I'm in a chat room right now with the some of the head moderators of your own message board, and they're counting on me right now. It's all or nothing, sir. And I have to plug a website, if you don't mind. The guy who I talked to just before he took my name and everything said it's okay, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't even really screen calls, David. What do you? Gerald Celente's here. Do you have any questions or comments for him? You're talking about a website. What's going on?
I have to plug a website, sir.
Okay.
Is that okay?
No, we're here to talk to Gerald Celente. I mean, do you have a question for Gerald Celente?
No, I didn't. My timing is off then.
I'm going to put you on hold then and come back to you later, David. I mean, come on. We got Gerald Celente here. This guy, I mean, he's a great guy. He's in demand all over the world. We've got him here for you to be able to ask him important questions, okay? I mean, just be polite to our guests. That's my only issue. We have open phones all the time. Zach in Florida. Zach in Florida, you're on the air with Gerald Celente of trendsresearch.com.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I threw in my frickin' 25 towards freedom. Thanks. But yeah, actually, Gerald Celente. I was actually, I wanted to ask you about like gold and basically like as a currency in the United States or maybe China going down the gold road.
Yeah, they're all buying into gold. Anybody?
I know. But like maybe the Chinese people might raise up and take what freedom because they're kind of getting the middle class side here, or they think that they have themselves. Yeah.
Will the Chinese people fight for freedom? They don't have a chance. It's a totalitarian government. You get out of line, you're going to be whacked out really quick. And by the way, you know, the hypocrisy of this country, you can't do any business with Cuba over there. Oh, no, those commies. But those Chinese commies, you know, look, China has 1.3 billion people and 1 million problems. China doesn't export. China doesn't make any money. You're going to see China start becoming really aggressive in the coming years as the world economy slows down and they have a lot of unrest on their hands. The greatest fear, by the way, and the only way America could ever possibly beat the Chinese, they'll never beat them in a war. They can't beat the Afghans. They haven't beat the Iraqis. They ain't going to beat the Chinese. The only way to beat the Chinese is with our brains. But unfortunately, not only did we export all our jobs there, Siemens, GE, you name the company, they exported our brains there too. So no, the Chinese, there's not going to be any middle-class uprising. If there is, boy, they'll get whacked down as soon as they could blink their eye.
All right.
Also,
go ahead, Zach.
Hey, but yeah, also I was also looking at what are the chances of the Chinese going and playing the hero against the United States in the Middle East?
Well, look, they both got nuclear weapons, but you did have that thing with the bomber drill from China via Turkey, showing that Turkey has left the fold. We're seeing a lot of repositioning the old chessboard geopolitically, Gerald.
Yeah, China's in with Iran. I mean, they need their oil. China's buying up. China's already in Afghanistan trying to pull out more rare earth minerals and natural resources. They've already cut deals. China's in Brazil. China's going worldwide. You know, you go into any of the Asian countries, Vietnam, Indonesia, you go on anywhere, you have huge Chinese population.
They've already supplanted the Japanese as the second biggest economy.
Yeah, but they're also in all these other countries as the major economic force within them. You know, China's going to be the greatest threat to the world. There's no question about it. And I said the only way that the Americans could possibly win this war is a war of the mind.
But the globalists...
But they're taking our innovation away from us, so we don't even have that card to play anymore.
Well, I see the CFR 30 years ago saying that the future of the New World Order is China. They give them all our jobs. They can have tariffs on us. We can't have tariffs on them. They're giving all the resources. Australia is just giving all their raw metal, steel, iron, gold to them, industrial metals. It's all happening, and they're being built up. They're being armed. They're being set up. It's just incredible. A few final calls with Gerald Celente of TrendsResearch.com. This is the live global transmission of the 2010 InfoWars Money Bomb. Please donate at Infowars.com or InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. I want to thank everybody that is donating. Let's talk to Jeff in Florida. You're on the air with Gerald Celente. Go ahead, Jeff. Okay, exciting phone call there. Thank you, Jeff. Adam in the Rockies. Adam calling from the Rocky Mountains somewhere. Adam, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Gerald. Thank you for taking my call. I want to thank you both for your continuing efforts to educate the brain-dead masses out there. I'm Canadian, raised upper middle class. I've been awake to the common law since I was a child, thanks to my grandfather. University educated, double major, psychology, philosophy, minor in computer sciences. I quit fourth year because I refused to acquiesce to the Machiavellian programming. I'm educated in global business network, trained in scenario programming and strategic forecasting. I also have certifications from U.S. Department of Defense for information security and electronic warfare. I'm currently the director of IT for an electronic financial services company. I do have a big question for Gerald. Gerald, I'm buying a sailboat so I can flee to international waters. How long do you think I have to escape Canada?
Okay, so specifically, what's your question for Gerald?
How long do I have to get out of Canada before the hammer falls?
Did Gerald just drop again? Okay, we'll just do 5 more minutes with him so we can answer that question. Video Skype is great, but it drops occasionally. This is the 3rd time it's happened. Just tell him we're going to do like 7 more minutes, just a few minutes to the next hour, then we'll get Tarpley on. Fleeing into international water. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a total, road warrior thing unless it's down the road. Gerald Celente, are you back?
Yeah, we're back. I wouldn't worry about leaving Canada. Canada is going to be one of the better places to be in a time of disruption and upheaval. And as bad as it is there, as we saw at the G20 meeting in Toronto, with them spending over $1 billion to protect 20 guys and their entourage, they could become pretty fascist as well. But I wouldn't worry about the sailboat. And by the way, when we talk about China, Alex, if you want to see the China card being played, look what they did to Japan when they had that incident with the Japanese taking a Chinese trawler. What did the Chinese do? They cut off the rare earth minerals going into Japan. China controls 93% of the rare earth minerals, the things that make those computer screens work, the things that they need in wind turbines and high technology.
Yeah, the Chinese are smart because in Africa, I was reading an Economist article last month, in Australia, in the United States, I just saw a Houston Chronicle article where they just leased 600,000 acres of premium oil and gas. So our own oil companies are pulling out. They're drilling here. The Chinese are smart.
Yep. Yes, they are.
We're going to take one final call for Gerald Celente and then let him have closing comments. Then we're going to go to the last of that Ron Paul speech you were hearing for about 5-6 minutes and then get Webster Griffin Tarpley on with us. Rusty in Arkansas, you're on the air. Final caller for the Trends Forecaster, TrendsResearch.com, Gerald Celente.
Hey there, I just want to say thanks to all the Info Warriors for donating so far to the cause, and I'd like to promote that some more. Please donate more to Infowars.com and send the link out to anybody you know with a little bit of cash that they can spare so we can help this cause. Mr. Celente, what is your whole take on the oil spill in the Gulf, and what do you think about some of the construction companies actually profiting more, and it looks like they're lending, the more the banks are lending for more construction? What were your comments on that? And where do you think that this terror attack might take place that you speak of?
All right, he's having a lot of Skype problems, and we're about to end the interview, but I'll be able to ask him that question. But being sarcastic here, Rusty, Gulf oil spill, what's the problem? Obama says core exit's not bad for you, and there's no health issues. Doesn't matter if the life expectancy from the Exxon Valdez cleanup with the same chemicals, 51. That's cutting 24 years off the average male life expectancy. Gerald, what's your take on the Gulf oil spill, and what do you see happening with construction? That's Rusty's question.
The Gulf oil, I mean, it's a disaster. I love the names they give it. Again, a white shoe boy name, corrects it. It killed you, corrects it. No, it's much worse than they've made it out to be. Everyone knows it's a cover-up, and it should be expected because that's what they do. Construction, you don't need to build another thing in this country. We're overbuilt, overstored. Rejuvenate the great that's dilapidating. Go into these older cities that have beautiful structures that need to be restored.
Gerald, interrupt. I want you to continue. We sent a camera crew in the upcoming film to Detroit, and I'm watching this high-def footage on the big screen editing television, and it is marble, it is columns, it is carvings, thousands of gorgeous buildings, things I would love to live in, and they'll give them to you for free. Why build some new tar paper wooden piece of crud overpriced? Why not go in and fix these beautiful things that could last thousands of years?
Exactly, and that's what the Renaissance is, a rediscovery of the greatness, not the crap that they put up now, steel with foam around it. I mean, come on. You know, so this is the construction to go in. And all those little boys and girls that have those educations that aren't worth the paper that they spent the hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and that you're home with mommy and daddy, and you can't get a job. Put your brain together. You were special when you were little, and you became amazing when you grew up. Start doing something amazing. Start going out and do another homesteading act. As you pointed out, Alex, you could get these buildings for nothing. What you're paying for that new stupid car a month, you could be living in a building. Get your friends together. Put your brains together. You have the intelligence. Get the drive. Rejuvenate. Move into these communities. Bring them back up. Not gentrification on that end, but bringing it up to a cool area, a Renaissance area. Restore what we have. Don't build more.
And I appreciate your call, Rusty, but that's happening right now. I mean, places all around Austin where you've got all these doctors and engineers and professionals and regular folks and their own farms and communities and co-ops and raw milk. And it's just, you go into these towns. I wish I could live there, but I've got to, be here in Austin. But I go out and meet with these people, and I see them, and and it's just, there is a renaissance already happening. And I talk to these great minds, people who'd never even heard my show, and now they've heard it, who 10 years ago saw the same thing you've seen, the same thing I've seen, and they made, preemptive corrective measures. And so, but you're not going to hear that advertised by the mainstream corporate media. They want to keep you in the fraud.
Well, look who they are. I mean, look what happened with that guy Sanchez getting in an argument with Jon Stewart. It was like Mickey Mouse debating Donald Duck. And when you talk about the new Renaissance, the American Renaissance, rather, on 10-10-10, up here in Kingston, New York, across the whole front of our building, which is 45 feet long, we put up a sign 2 feet high, 45 feet long. The American Renaissance has begun. The people that see it are moving in that direction. The others that are waiting for the network losers and the politicians to lead them, they're going to go down. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. And those that see it are going to profit for a very long time to come.
Well, just like if they'd have listened to us 10 years ago, they'd have made 4 times their money on gold, and it's only going up. Okay, final question. You alluded, Gerald, to a huge global event. The Rand Corporation says they want a huge war. Stage terror, real terror. They're preemptively trying to stir it up over there. just run through this gamut briefly of what are some of the events. And I know it's impossible to say, but you know, we got the White House advisors saying we need a big terror attack so people will love and trust Obama. For the bankers to get their agenda, what type on your radar screen, your crystal ball, you know, looking at the tea leaves in your gut, what does your gut tell you is some of the prime suspects for some type of Machiavellian, to use the earlier caller's term, crisis?
Iran is the biggest one. You know, they've built up so much hatred between the American people and the Iranians that, I mean, that to us that's the big one. And of course, then there's the Israeli issue, and a war with Lebanon, as we saw the Ahmadinejad going to the Lebanon-Israeli border. And there is no peace talks. It's a joke. They keep stealing land. I love the word they give to them. The Israelis that steal land are called settlers, you know, like an old wagon train going out to the west over there. Settlers. How about thieves? Can anybody say that? So as they continue to steal more land, as provocations continue to increase in Israel, that whole area is really hot to explode. And of course, the Iranian issue, but the big one, Alex, is Pakistan. The United States, as you well know, with the Predator drones going in, they're creating hatreds at levels far beyond we've seen before, because the problem you have is you got about 300,000 Pakistanis living in the United States. And if they get their families wiped out, loved ones slaughtered, you think they're going to be angry? You think they're going to want to provoke revenge? So that's what we're concerned about.
Very well said. Trendsresearch.com. We appreciate you coming on with us for the last hour and a half or more. And Gerald, always informative to have you on with us, and thank you for supporting this 2010 money bomb to continue our operation and hopefully expand, because the times are so dire, but the opportunities are also so great. People are really ready to be awakened right now, and we couldn't do it without you. Gerald, I want to thank you and your crew.
Well, thank you, Alex. And I just want to mention that we, too, know how difficult it is for everyone, and that no matter what you can afford, go to the discount request page, let us know, and we'll make the Trends Journal available to all those that cannot afford it. We'll give you a price that you can't afford, and if you're in really dire straits, we'll give it to you for free.
But folks that do have the capital, it's funny, sometimes poor folks are the most giving, and then the middle class and people, they just, you know, they won't get off the fence. People need to get the Trends Journal because it's invaluable information. Trendsresearch.com, and thank you for doing that, Gerald. We'll talk to you again soon. God bless you.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, thank you. Gerald Celente, amazing interview. We're going to finish up, because earlier in the week I played part of it. It's a 22-minute speech. I played about 7 minutes earlier. We're going to play the last 5-6 minutes of this Ron Paul speech from earlier in the week. We've been broadcasting now, 21, 22 hours live. Oh, we're in the 22nd hour right now. We're going to 27 hours total here. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. If you want to donate and be part of this historical event, I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart who has. We couldn't do it without you. It's so beautiful what we've done. I really value the fact that we've stood up and made a major stand and had such a big effect. And hopefully this is just the beginning, thanks to all your support, that buy the books, the videos, the T-shirts, who donate, who are PrisonPlanet.tv members. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or link through if you forget the URL at Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com. Paul Watson's got some big bombshell reports up on Prison Planet dealing with bombs in the buildings. Now a CBS News report about bombs bringing down the towers that NIST had covered up. This is really scary stuff. I'm going to try to play that with Tarpley coming up. We'll get into the economy first. Continue with your phone calls. If you've got financial questions for Webster Griffin Tarpley or anything, any other major subject, 888-201-2244, 888-201-2244, and we'll be taking your calls with him as well, 888-201-2244. But again, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. Our great crew's back there taking your donations right now and your orders for videos. That's also a support. 888-253-3139. You can go up on the online video bookstore shopping cart, and there's Patriot Apparel to spread the word. You know, the top videos, not just my films, but every other film and book I read that I think is really important. It's all available at Infowars.com on the online bookstore, another way to support us. But again, the number to call and donate or to order is 888-253-3139. Please don't sit on the fence. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and we're about 500 miles towards reaching our goal of liberty and defeat of the globalists. Here's the rest of the Ron Paul speech to Webster Tarpley live from Maryland outside D.C., and then live video via video Skype, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. And, of course, we had Lou Dobbs on and many others. It's been an amazing transmission. We couldn't do it without the crew as well. It's all of us working together. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We believe that we should have the protection of life and liberty and, of course, pursuit of happiness, or keep what we earn. But I think the most important of all that, liberty is important, obviously. But you cannot protect liberty if you don't protect all life. Once human life is identified, if you ignore that, you can't protect liberty. If we can do that, we will have a free and prosperous society. Freedom to me is so wonderful, and I have such confidence in how well it works if we can just protect that and guarantee that you have your God-given rights to your life and your liberty, where our freedoms come from, not from our government. If we allow that and understand freedom is tolerance. Think of the First Amendment. The federal government says the Congress shall write no laws regarding the many things that they list there. Write no laws. That means that certainly the administration can't write laws. They're not supposed to be able to write regulations or executive orders or anything else. They're not allowed to under the Constitution. And certainly, if we're told that the Congress writes all laws and the executive branch is not allowed to either, why in the world have we allowed our judicial branch to write law? They shouldn't write law either. I would believe in freedom and free markets if it did not produce greater wealth. But we who believe in freedom, we don't even have to argue that, because history is on our side. History proves the freer the market, the sounder the money, the greater prosperity, and the more people that can enjoy it. So freedom is defendable from a very practical way. So this is something that we fail, I think, to project. But freedom also works in a social way. Freedom does bring people together. Freedom should not be divisive. If the First Amendment says that you can say things that are controversial, you should be able to tolerate other people who are controversial too, as long as they don't impose their will or their rules and their beliefs on you. I have every reason to be optimistic. As pessimistic as I am on the economy, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. We're going to have a monetary crisis. There's going to be a challenge. So I hope this group, the Tea Party movement, and others continue to grow and have a significant intellectual influence on Washington, D.C., because things will get a lot worse. But freedom is alive and well, let me tell you. Not only do we see the movements like this, but I go constantly to the universities, and if you have a true intellectual revolution, the universities will express it. And believe me, on the campuses of this country, they care about freedom, they care about liberty, they care about our Constitution, and they are going to be the next generation. We will have no magic cure in November. We will significantly see some changes, hopefully, and that will be good. But the major challenge will be when we have a dollar financial crisis, and the whole system is going to be challenged. But intellectually, the belief in liberty is growing by leaps and bounds, and you are reflecting that. So I come here with great gratitude for having been invited, but I go away with great excitement and belief and enjoyment that I know so many of you care. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We are well into the 21st hour. Is it hour 22? 22nd hour of the live global transmission at Infowars.com, the free audio stream and video streams up there. We have had Lou Dobbs on. We have had David Icke on. We have had, let me just tell you who all we've had on. We're going to Webster Tarpley. Lou Dobbs, Alan Watt, David Icke, Lord Christopher Monckton, Paul Craig Roberts' video interview. He's coming up live in about 50 minutes. We've had Joel Skousen, World Affairs Brief, Dr. Stan Monteith, Jeffrey Smith, Richard Reeves, Luke Radowski, G. Edward Griffin. We've had Katherine Austin Fitts, Dr. Childress, Dr. Sherri Tenpenny, Max Keiser, Gerald Celente for an hour and 45 minutes, and now Webster Tarpley, then Dr. Paul Craig Roberts via video, live, Skype on the economy and so much more. Then we go into the main transmission again, where I started out 24 hours ago and continue for 3 more hours. We've got more surprise special guests coming up as well, and of course next week. We have Webster Tarpley as an author, historian, journalist, lecturer. He's a doctorate of history, a critic of the U.S. Foreign domestic policy, best known for his book, George Bush, The Unauthorized Biography. This is an old bio. He's now known for all the seminal works on Obama that have really borne out to be dangerously accurate. I read these books, even though I respect Tarpley, like 2 years ago. And a year I was like, it's just all real. It's all true. This is so insane. Mr. Tarpley is a 9/11 truth scholar who's documented the September 11th as a synthetic staged event. And we really appreciate him coming on. He's also a Genesis talk show host Saturday afternoons with World Crisis Radio, and his website is tarpley.net, TARPLEY.net. He joins us from Maryland, right outside the District of Criminals in Washington, D.C. Webster, good to have you here with us.
Hey, congratulations, Alex.
Well, thank you. I mean, we've raised about $335,000, but with 20 crew members and the huge, facility we're trying to finish, and all the websites and the bandwidth, just giving out in the last 24 hours or so, the free video stream for people to watch is going to be probably $10,000 with the hundreds of thousands that have tuned in on it. And I mean, it's so obvious, and I want to get into all the news and the economy with you, but it's so just blaringly clear and evident and self-evident that we're not funded by the globalists and the New World Order and the Wall Street criminals and the zombie banks. We're funded and supported by you, the listeners. And Infowars, Moneybomb.com, it's so important. Webster, I mean, do you think this is a worthwhile show and platform for people to support?
You're performing a very important public service, right? There's got to be an opposition to all of these terrible things that are going on. So somebody's got to speak up against it. And we don't have enough platforms for opposition. So every one that we have is precious, and yours is a very important one. So more power to you.
Well, thank you, Webster. I hope people will continue to donate. We want to thank them. 888-253-3139. Our great crew is here to take your donation via credit card or however you'd like. 888-253-3139. Don't sit on the bench, folks. Get involved. I mean, this is like war bonds to restore our republic and our system and the American system that you talk so much about, but we don't make you give us the money at the barrel of a government gun. We're asking you to help us. So if you choose to join us and believe in what we're doing, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Webster, so much is happening in the world. Everything you talked about, that's the guests we have on, people that are accurate, people that have charted what's happening. I mean, you talked about the derivatives a decade ago with the end of Glass-Steagall, or 11 years ago. You talked about the zombie banks. You talked about the mortgage crisis just being the beginning. You talked about the derivatives, selling them, sometimes 10, 20 times. Now the mortgages being halted in many cases, total systemic fraud. I mean, break it all down. First, the crimes we're dealing with, what is going to unfold. We already aired an hour-long video of you going through solutions. We wanted to interview you about eugenics, but you demanded to get into, we talked to you in D.C. About solutions. So that's already been heard earlier. Get into, so people understand the full magnitude of the corruption, the devaluation, the G20 announcement last year that was horrifying to us, that they are going to have concerted, coordinated currency devaluation. They're calling it a currency war. Is it really a currency war? They're announcing their world government that's to come out of it. Webster, break it down.
Well, the currency war really started about a year ago, and it ultimately goes back to the banking panic, the world derivatives and banking panic of September 2008, right, when all the Wall Street banks were bankrupt and were then bailed out by Bush and Paulson, and then by Obama, Bernanke, and Geithner. The response of the authorities to this derivatives panic of September 2008 was to flood the system with money, right, liquidity, and that was the 24 trillion that we've traced, you've traced.
But they flooded it to themselves.
Sure, but the problem with this was that this then started to weaken the dollar, and all during 2009, the dollar was going down, 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 and this became an issue in the summer of 2009. By about August, there were a lot of people very nervous. When is this dollar slide going to stop? So what they decided to do was to export the depression. In other words, the U.S. and the British, as usual, decided to pursue a beggar my neighbor policy, and the idea was two things. Export the depression, first of all, to Europe, smash the euro, do a speculative attack on the euro, get Soros going, use credit default swaps, attack Greece, Spain, Portugal, use that weak flank to break into the eurozone, and then create mayhem, break it up, and then loot it and sack it, and then go on to something else. So that was one side. The other side was drive the Chinese currency up, up, up. The renminbi goes into the stratosphere, creating tremendous social tensions, and maybe with luck you could get a color revolution going in China and eliminate what I think they regard as a serious competitor and an adversary in the long run. So again, euro smashed and down, and renminbi up. Now neither one of those has worked, and this became obvious by the early part of May. If you go back to that flash crash of May 6th, remember when the Dow lost 1,000 points in about 10 minutes, right? 1 trillion of so-called paper wealth destroyed. My view on that is that was an attempt to use program trading to smash the euro. And in particular, if you look at the quotations of the yen against the euro in the flash crash, you'll see that the euro was going down, down, down against the yen, and that part was working, except what they found was that as they did that, they were also destroying the New York stock market, which they couldn't continue to do because of the political implications of it. So they had to cease and desist on that front. So that was the flash crash, I think. It was an attack on the euro that misfired, that boomeranged and threatened to drag down the entire system in a general panic. By the way, after that point, after the flash crash, anybody who proposes investing Social Security money in the stock market, I think, is a certifiable lunatic. But that's just by the by. Now, the problem then is, at that point, what happened to the Anglo-American strategy, right? They were going from November to May, June, trying to destroy the euro, and it didn't work. Now, the forces of depression are still there. The forces of depression are 1.5 quadrillion. That means 1,500 trillion dollars of kited, toxic, bankrupt derivatives, right? The collateralized debt obligations, credit default swaps, structured investment vehicles. Generally, the over-the-counter derivatives are the worst part, although the exchange-traded are also bad. That is sitting there, right, in the New York banks, to some extent in London. So how is that going to express itself? Well, it's sitting there, and it has now taken the form of a dollar crisis once again. And at this point, we have to look at our friend Helicopter Ben Bernanke at the Fed, and his policy is now QE2, quantitative easing Mark II, meaning flood the system with liquidity again. Buy $1 trillion or a couple of $1 trillion worth of bonds and securities, and try to get more money sloshing around. Really, all that means is more hot money that will then go into the emerging markets or some speculative market in a foreign country and try to get short-term speculative profits with gambling and so on. The problem for the U.S. is that as the dollar goes down, the Chinese come with it. In other words, the Chinese have locked their renminbi onto the dollar, so that when the dollar goes down, the Chinese renminbi goes down with it compared to other currencies in the world. And since China is now the world's largest exporter, that puts the pressure on Japan, on South Korea, on really everybody, Philippines, Indonesia, India. They're all screaming that the Chinese are undercutting them in the export markets because the Chinese currency is getting cheaper as the dollar goes down. So that set the stage for the meeting of the International Monetary Fund this past weekend, which was preceded by a huge array of China bashing by the heads of the IMF and the World Bank and Tiny Tim Geithner here at the Treasury and so forth. But what has come out of this now is that there's a split in the G20. The G20 will now meet in South Korea next month, but there's a big division in them. Right? They don't agree, and that's they tried to agree in September 2008, but now they don't agree anymore. And what you've got is a tendency towards protectionism. In other words, the free trade people that have created this crisis with their deregulation and so forth policies, they are now on the defensive because what's coming is capital controls and exchange controls. In other words, that countries have the right to limit the amount of speculative hot money that comes into them. For example, Brazil. Brazil says, wait a minute, all this speculative hot money is coming into our currency. You're driving us up 10%, 20%. That means our export companies go bankrupt. We're going to stop it. We're going to find ways to tax it, to regulate it, to prevent this from happening. So that's capital controls and exchange controls.
And Germany's blocked some of the more nasty derivatives. But to quantify and boil this down, Webster, I want to talk about the point we've reached and where we're going from here, because from all the evidence I see, the crisis is quickening. And to have the Wall Street Journal reporting on the Federal Reserve last week announcing, the headline. In fact, pull this up, guys, on Google if you can. Inflation is will fix debt problem, Wall Street Journal. And Bernanke saying, inflation is a good idea. We know they've been quietly inflating, but to come out and just say it publicly, what type of signal is that to send? And I want to get into this mortgage situation because that's killing confidence.
Right, we should. Look, just in terms of his QE2, right? Quantitative easing 2, right? Some people think they see QE2 and they see Queen Elizabeth II, right? The ocean liner. But the problem is Bernanke's QE2 is really the Titanic because you can see what's been happening in the past week, right? The dollar is going down. The dollar is now at a 15-year low compared to the yen. We could go through all the currencies. It's basically the same story across the board. Notice that gold has been hitting these all-time record highs basically every day or every other day. But at the same time, the price of oil is creeping up. The price of copper is going up. Various kinds of food products are going up. So you don't really know at this point, but that could be hyperinflation starting because that's how hyperinflation comes. Hyperinflation is a foreign exchange event. It's a currency market event. It's not a domestic supply and demand event. And you can see that, from Germany in 1923 and so forth. So the system is always on the brink of the dollar slide getting out of control and becoming unstoppable. And then, tremendous tensions and stresses, and the system essentially breaks up. But again, the answer to this stuff is for individual countries, sort of emergency self-defense. It is these things like capital controls and exchange controls. In other words, to shut down the international speculators. Don't let Soros determine the value of your currency. You try to determine it yourself, right? And you got to use your export companies as an important guide in doing that. The other thing is we got to move towards a system of fixed parities because you can see the Chinese model. Why did the Chinese succeed? It's because they have got a fixed rate now between their currency and the dollar, and they take care of that themselves so that they can, not only do they get the currency quotation that they want, but they get the certainty, they get the predictability. They know what it's going to be worth 30, 60, 90, 120, 500 days down the road. They know what a renminbi is going to be worth compared to a dollar, and that's a tremendous advantage when you do these things. All right, so currency chaos goes on, currency war, splits, and so forth. Now let's look at what I would call the fraud closure crisis. All right, this is an area where people, I think, can get active. It turns out that as Wall Street was essentially piloting this bubble, right? The housing bubble that Wall Street had created in 05, 06, 07, and even into 08. What they would do is they'd take these mortgages, right? They would deliberately load in mortgages that were going to default. They wanted the mortgages to default because then they could collect on the credit default swaps, the derivatives insurance that they had plastered on top. But they would pack these mortgages, they'd load them and get a large number of insolvent mortgages that they knew would never get paid. They'd package that into a mortgage-backed security, which is already a derivative. And then they'd take the mortgage-backed security and they'd pack that into a collateralized debt obligation. They'd put that maybe into another collateralized debt obligation, making a super CDO or CDO squared. They'd put credit default swaps on top. In the process of doing this, they were in such a hurry that they forgot that there are laws that specify that you've got to, keep a registry in the counties of the United States of who owns what properties, right? They said, forget that part. We'll get a computerized system. And it turns out that their computerized system is faulty, and it's full of fraud, and it's full of inaccuracies. If somebody tries to come and foreclose on you, the magic words are, produce the note. You say you're going to take my house, show me the piece of paper that I signed. And the chances are they can't, because a lot of them, as we're hearing now, they decided that it was too expensive to keep the original copies of the mortgages, so they decided to shred them. And once they've shredded them, they can't foreclose on you.
But Webster, I remember people talking about mirrors and all this stuff 7, 8 years ago when it was getting started. The truth is, as you know, as you've pioneered exposing, they've sold these mortgages. They put the bad ones in credit default swaps in buckets. They've AAA rated them, had insurance companies, certify them. They know what they've done, and so they couldn't have deeds involved because there was no chain. They didn't want to have to pay for the title companies each time to transfer it and check it and make sure it was all under law. And so they just made it up so they could sell Europe, the Chinese, our private pension funds, the public pension funds, this toxic pus.
Right, exactly. And again, they wanted these things to fail because once a certain percentage of them had failed, they could say, all right, we're collecting on the credit default swaps. And we know from those, the Goldman Sachs hearings.
Yeah, we now see cases where 2, 3 banks are trying to foreclose on the same house. Thousands of confirmed cases, even on CNN they're reporting. They're taking houses that have been paid for a decade where they never even had a loan with them. They just show up and take it. I mean, these banks are so criminal, they were just putting houses on record and selling it that they didn't even own. I mean, this is like end of the world, jumping off cliff craziness. What is going on with these bankers?
Absolute piracy. No, the point of it is the following. What's the public policy we need? The bankers, Wall Street has created chaos. They created chaos with the bubble in the first place. They created chaos when they all went bankrupt in September 2008, and the government had to save them. Right? It was a terrible mistake. They should have been put into orderly bankruptcy, and then this stuff could have been sorted out under Chapter 11. But now they're creating a third or fourth round of chaos with this Wild West policy of foreclosures. And the answer is stop foreclosures, ban foreclosures, freeze them, moratorium, no foreclosures. And it's got to be by a federal law, uniform federal law. You throw an American family out on the street, you go to Leavenworth. No more foreclosures. It's obviously a situation which is so chaotic now that in addition to all the other reasons to stop foreclosures, you got to stop them in order to avoid what is just now absolute thievery.
Okay, Webster, I know you always like to give solutions, but people need to even understand the problem. So we've got a bunch of callers, Sean in China, many others. I want to go to them. We'll have you till about 5 after, then Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is on, and it's so great to have you with us. But I want to talk to you about not what we wish the solutions were and what would probably work, but what the elites are doing and the direction they're going in.
Yeah, but wait, Alex, it's not that bad, right? There's a whole bunch of officials, right, they happen to be Democrats, right? That's
no. Listen, Webster. I'm going to give you the floor for 10 minutes. Okay. So you run with it. My issue is I want your forecast into the future. I want to see what you think's going to happen, not what you wish would happen if they were good people or whatever happened. Who the factions are, where you see it going. They're hyping false flag terror again, and I see them pulling that rabbit out of a hat. Let's get into just a general forecast of everything going on for another 10 minutes, and I'm going to go to these calls because they want to talk to you, Webster.
But look, the thing with that is you can't make a prediction as if you yourself didn't exist. In other words, oneself is always a factor in the future prognostication. Now,
I understand. What about stage terror? What about where do you see this mortgage thing?
Because I think it's really important because people can take action rather than just observing.
Okay, but then get into false flag terror.
Sure. Here's the idea. Right now, the desperate part of the political spectrum is you have a bunch of desperate Democrats who are looking for things to say to try to avoid the worst. And in doing so, sometimes good things emerge. You're in a situation now that's so bad, gold is where you find it. You've got to look around and see positive things can be coming from very bad people. And again, very evil people sometimes do positive things. So you've got a bunch of Democrats who are calling for some kind of a freeze on foreclosures. You've got Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You've got Harry Reid. You've got Congressman Van Hollen, the part of the House leadership. You've got that guy Coons, who's running against the witch in Delaware, right? You've got a bunch of others. The problem with them is that they say 1 month, 2 months. No, not 1 month or 2 months. 5 years. 5 years or the duration of the world economic and financial depression, whichever lasts longer. And that's something with teeth. We had the Fraser-Lemke Act, 1935. It basically stopped foreclosures on family farms. Let's have a new version of the Fraser-Lemke Act. And how this could come about right now? It could. You have this Elizabeth Warren sitting in the White House, right? And some people look at Elizabeth Warren and they say, well, does she have any power, right? She's now the czar for the Federal Consumer Protection Agency, right? Financial Consumer Protection Agency. Well, generally speaking, that's nothing good in there, but something could come out of it. Somewhere in all those regulations, there's got to be some way for Elizabeth Warren to come out on the White House lawn and say, okay, we're freezing foreclosures for 5 years, or open-ended at least. We're freezing foreclosures for the duration of the crisis. And I would call on Elizabeth Warren to do that. Don't wait for Obama. Don't ask Obama. We're getting these reports from the Ulsterman papers. I don't know if you've seen them, but the Ulsterman reports about Obama is that he's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So forget him. Forget Axelrod. Axelrod was on television saying, no, we can't freeze foreclosures. The Washington Post is very worried about a freeze on foreclosures. The headline yesterday in the Washington Post was, no freeze on foreclosures, please, says the United States government. And instead, it's exactly what we need. In other words, at some point in this crisis, finance capital, financiers, zombie bankers, Wall Street, they've got to take a hit. They've got to lose sometime. And here's a chance to make them lose. Because most people would say, from the point of view of American fairness, those banks were bailed out by the taxpayer. They should say thank you by stopping these foreclosures. In other words, did we bail out the banks just so that they could come and steal our houses now? No. They should cool it. They should stop with the foreclosures. And I urge people, call your elected officials and say, we want a freeze on foreclosures. No more thievery. No more throwing American families out on the street under the cover of law. Interestingly enough, when this came up on Sunday in one of the Blab shows, Eric Cantor, the Republican whip, the guy who would become the majority leader in the House of Representatives now, as soon as somebody said something about freezing foreclosures, Cantor lined up to defend his owners in Wall Street. He said, oh, no, that would deprive lenders, in other words, the zombie bankers, that would deprive the lenders of the protections they need. So his heart beats for Wall Street. And then he said, no, we've got to have individual responsibility. Individual responsibility is you're on your own. You're going to be crushed by this huge zombie bank that's going to come and take your house. So I think that's a great that's a great area to mobilize, and then go on from there. So I should continue now, huh? Okay. Well, I guess what was our other topic? I think we were talking about false flag possibilities. Well, these are always there.
It was stage terror, Tarpley.
Sure.
They're really hyping that right now. We got all these White House officials saying what he needs is a new Oklahoma City or 9/11 so people admire him and think he's strong. They think we're so dumb they're out in the open talking. Finish up on that for 5 minutes and then...
I think the question of the crisis of the Obama regime is maybe the thing where we got new developments, right? Have you gone into these Ulsterman papers? It's essentially, it's a White House insider who is now making a series of revelations. It's a blog called newsflavor.com. And Ulsterman is a former White House official under Obama who tells a story of, well, what can we say? Nixonian paranoia, severe depression, narcissism, megalomania, but that Obama seems to be on the verge of some kind of a mental breakdown. Again, what he says is you've got to compare this to the Ford Halloween massacre. 35 years ago, this coming Halloween, we had Gerald Ford firing a whole bunch of people in his administration. He kicked out Nelson Rockefeller. He kicked out Schlesinger. He kicked out Kissinger from the White House, at least, and so forth. And if you look at what's happened with Obama, there's been a tremendous exit of these officials, right? Blair, who was the intelligence director, is out. Orsag of management and budget. Romer from economics. Larry Summers was an economic czar. Rahm Emanuel is gone. David Axelrod is leaving. It's getting to be a very long list, and if you add that up, it essentially is a massive exodus, and really an unprecedented exodus of top officials from the Obama regime. It's been done over a couple of months, so that seems to mask the dimensions of it. But there it is. So the idea is that there were tremendous clashes between Michelle Obama and Rahm Emanuel. There's a war going on between the Obama White House and Pelosi. The Obama people want to get rid of Pelosi and scapegoat her for the losses after the election now in November. And the White House is filled with fear of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. And it takes the form of the possible invocation of the 25th Amendment. That is to say, the provision of the Constitution, if the president becomes incapacitated, then what happens? Well, if a majority of the cabinet vote that the president is incapacitated, then the vice president takes over. And then there's a mechanism. If the president says, no, I'm not incapacitated, it goes to the Congress. I think it takes a 2/3 vote to certify that the president is incapacitated if he claims that he's not. But you look at that cabinet, and you'd say, well, there are probably 2 votes already that Obama is incapacitated. That would probably be Hillary Clinton, and it might be Robert Gates at the Pentagon, and then you take it from there. And Joe Biden would also have a vote, and he might be a 3rd vote, and he might be part of this. So the idea would be you get Obama out, and then you have Biden move up, and at that point the vice presidency becomes available, and maybe Hillary Clinton decides to move up into that. These are the things that are actually going on behind the scenes in the Obama White House. So let's see. The idea was that Rahm Emanuel was forced out by a cabal of Valerie Jarrett, David Axelrod, and Michelle Obama, and so on and so forth. So behind the scenes, Robert Gibbs, the spokesman, is likely to be out. So you will have had pretty much a complete purge of the entire personnel there of the Obama White House. We're also told that the CIA has assigned a top Iran-Contra veteran, a top CIA official whose name came up in the Iran-Contra era 25 years ago now, has been assigned by the CIA to assemble all the dirt on Obama, basically, all the stuff about the Chicago corruption, all the stuff about his personal activities, sort of the Larry Sinclair file, I guess you'd say, and then the stuff also on the birth certificate, the qualification to be president, and so forth. So essentially, what you're seeing is the breakup of a government. Certainly, it's not just these Ulsterman papers that talk about it. You have this in the supermarket tabloid The Globe, talking about tremendous tensions between Obama and Michel. You had the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung saying that the main financial angels of the Democratic Party are now telling Hillary Clinton that she should run for president immediately. And you've got all kinds of people speculating about Obama's mental condition and kind of psychoanalysis, right? Obama on the couch.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to care. He reportedly just watches ESPN all day.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it. That he's completely detached. He's bored. He's disinterested. And indeed, he never read some of these monstrous pieces of legislation. Apparently, never read the health bill after all. So. All of this indicates that you might be looking more at Washington intrigue. In other words, various forms of a coup d'etat, cold coup, this kind of stuff going on as a result of this weakness. If Obama loses one or two houses of the Congress, you're going to see more momentum in this direction. And it seems to me that the thing that I think would be a positive outcome would be a challenger to him. In other words, an open challenge. I really don't care who it is at this point, because whoever the first one is will be followed by more.
Well, only Ron Paul will attack the globalists and the big central banks.
Yeah, sure, but you've also got to have a tactical approach to doing something across the board. So what we need is a primary challenger to Obama in the Democratic Party who's going to start campaigning.
Well, that sure isn't going to be Hillary Clinton.
It may well be.
No, I mean, it may well be, but, I mean, you know, Hillary Clinton's even worse than Obama.
Sure. And she's a hawk, and she brings all this policy stuff. But again, if you go back to 1968, you know, Eugene McCarthy comes out and says, I'm challenging LBJ, and it turns out that there's a tremendous interest in getting rid of LBJ at that point because of the Vietnam War. And then Robert Kennedy comes along. So whoever the first one is will not be the only one. In other words, it's just important.
No, I hear you. Let's go to some phone calls, Webster. All very informative here with you today. Before we go to calls, we're going to have Webster about 10 minutes with us. Then Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is going to be joining us for the rest of the next hour. Then we kick off the official radio show. We are 22, almost 23 hours into this marathon, 27-hour transmission. We're getting a lot of calls, a lot of donations right now from people. If you believe in what we're doing, if you believe in this radio show, the news websites, the films, the TV studio we've almost completed, we need to buy the equipment, get the crew in there. $500,000 is chicken feed when you know that Fox has multiple studios that are $10 million or more apiece. Same with CNN, MSNBC, and others. We're doing this all prosumer, as inexpensive as possible. We're the biggest bang for your buck, reaching people in a platform for all these great minds and debate that's happening here, and especially middle-class people being destroyed by this system. You need to step up and donate and get involved, and I want to thank all those that have donated. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. If you can't remember that URL, link through at Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com. Big banners everywhere. Tell your friends and family to tune in right now for this historic transmission. That'll help because many of them will donate, whether it's $5 or $10,000. 100% of this money bomb is going directly into expanding our operation and directly into the tip of the spear in the fight against the New World Order Anglo-American system. And it's just exposing the entire gamut, the entire spectrum of their crimes, and people are ready to hear the truth. People are awakening right now. This is the time to expose the puppets of the globalists. This is the time to expose the false left-right paradigm. You can also call. We've got great InfoWars crew taking your donations over the phone for credit card or PayPal, or people are also buying record numbers of books, videos, T-shirts. That also supports us at InfoWars.com. Then you know you're getting something like a film or a T-shirt that spreads the word. 888. Here's the number to call and donate. 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. Please don't wish later that you hadn't got off the fence. And this show won't save the world. Webster won't save the world. Ron Paul won't save the world. You know, none of these people are have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. But resistance is victory. Saying no to this system and putting out ideas for alternatives. This is the key juncture. So please donate today so we can expand into 2011. 888-253-3139 or InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Sean in China, thanks for holding for the last 45 minutes. You're on the air with Webster Tarpley. Sean.
Hello there. Thank you for having me on your show, Mr. Jones.
You bet.
And I'd like to thank you for 2 years ago. I had an enlightenment, and you really opened up my eyes about 9/11 and all this other stuff. And anyways, I'm a Canadian, and I've been here in China for over 10 years now, living here. And I was wondering, what would you do if you had $50,000 worth of Chinese renminbi, about 330,000 renminbi? What can I do to invest with it? Because at this time, I have it in Chinese, we say zhihuangjin, which means paper yellow gold. So we have it invested in a bank in China and stuff like that. Is it better to have physical gold or paper gold, or is it good to have gold in China at all? Or what would you do with it?
All right, let me be specific. I don't know all the intricacies of the locale and your personal issues, and I don't give financial advice, and we're going to have Webster comment on this. If I was you, I would be at least 30% in silver and gold, and I would be diversified out in other areas and pay down debts and things like that. I mean, put it to you this way. I bought a lot of my gold at $260, $300, $400, $500 an ounce. I haven't sold any of it. And I haven't sold any of the silver because that's our emergency backup if we ever have to sell it. If we go into a total collapse, you know, I'll have to pay the bills and stay on air here, and I guess we'll have like a month of money or something, or not even that. But you know, that's my emergency. I mean, super backup, and it's seen fourfold increases. And so, you know, that's my view on it, is gold and silver. Webster Tarpley.
I think that's, broadly speaking, correct, Alex, what you just said. Obviously, we can't give it advice without, knowing your situation. We can't give advice no matter what. But generally speaking, a gold hedge, in other words, some percentage, right, whether it depends on your needs, 10, 20, 30% in these precious metals. And it's got to be physical gold in your private possession, and it can't be some paper promise that some broker has it on deposit for you, because what if they go bankrupt? And that's exactly what you're always trying to protect yourself against. And otherwise, diversify, but China is a good investment. So, on the other hand, don't put all your eggs in one basket no matter what it is.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, it's the old classic thing of diversify, diversify, diversify. And diversify doesn't mean what the media says, own a couple mutual funds. No, you're all in the stock market. Right, Webster?
Oh, no, you don't want to do that. You got to diversify out of paper, out of the dollar, and into various things like these metals that we just mentioned, to own a little bit of, to own your home free and clear with no debt, to own your car free and clear with no debt, to own the tools of your trade, right, whatever that is, computers, other kinds of tools. You should own them, and owning means you own them with no lien or note attached.
You're absolutely right, Webster. I concur with you. All right, who's up next in this long list of great callers? Don in Michigan, you're on the air worldwide.
How you doing, Alex?
Good, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to say was I get frustrated when I hear people say, okay, if this is true, what can I do? For an example, I have a sister that works as a school nurse in Iowa, and she said that, and I said, okay, well, being an authority figure in the school, you have access to kids' lunch boxes, coats, wherever they keep their change for lunch. Well, if you steal their money every day and they don't notice, you're going to keep doing it. Well, if one kid gets suspicious and warns the other kids, and all of a sudden all eyes are on you, are you going to keep trying to do that? And
exactly. You shine sunshine on these crooks. That's why they want to shut down the growing alternative media. They're not going to be able to get away with this stuff.
Exactly. And everybody feels so helpless. And I just want to say, me and a lot of guys at work appreciate what you do. We burn the DVDs. We do everything we can. We wake up who we can. And it's refreshing to see you doing this marathon. And I believe the awakening is it's growing, like you say, exponentially, and it's great. But that's really all I had, and I just wanted to thank you and your crew.
Well, thank you. Great to hear your voice and that encouragement, Don. Briefly, Tarpley, do you agree that this is an exponential, wild awakening? Brzezinski said 4 months ago, for the first time in history, all of mankind, in a general sense, is awake and staring at the elite, and they're in trouble.
Well, it's interesting that he says that, because that includes him, obviously, and his malfeasance and nonfeasance in government and later. You're in a phase of tremendous world crisis where your ideas can become important, right, over long periods of time. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, but when you get into a crisis and decisions have to be made about the future of civilization, it does matter what you think. And I would urge people to be active, right? Get active or get radioactive, and you'll be amazed in an atmosphere of widespread apathy and resignation. A few activists can do a great deal, and there are all kinds of opportunities to do that.
Yeah, the globalists in all their major white papers, doesn't matter if it was the Soviets before, any authoritarian system, they write about how, it was Stalin that said, or was it Lenin, that there are times in history when more happens in a year than happened in the previous 100 in total change, and they call it freezing society under their status quo, and then they will unfreeze it to make changes. But during the time that they're unfreezing things to go to a new level of tyranny, many times in history, we can get in there in this flux period and have the biggest effect ever.
Yes, I would also point, and from my point of view, nobody is in control of the world. In other words, the world is careening out of control. The Wall Street group that had, with London, dominated much of world affairs, not all, but much for various decades, their influence is diminishing. And you have other groups which are not identical and not the same, right? Be that China, Russia, or other places, India. These are all allied and otherwise connected. But you've got a situation now where the domination of the world is not an open and shut case. In other words, it's not clear who's running it. I don't think anybody's running it. I think that's the main point. And when you get a world currency crisis, a world currency war of the type that we seem to be going into, that's pretty good evidence that
in 60 seconds, because I want to go to a bunch of other callers here before we got to go, including Tarpley's #1 fan in Florida. That's their name. How do you see, just a dead reckoning, how do you see the currency war ending quickly?
I think the most likely, of course, is that it's going to be some kind of a dollar panic, right? The U.S. and the British had tried to engineer a situation where everybody would dump the euro, that you'd have mass panic selling of the euro, a mass rush for the exits out of the euro, break up the euro, and that didn't work. But that same fate may now be awaiting the dollar. In other words, that all kinds of central banks would begin diversifying out of the dollar, but do it in a kind of a mad rush, a panic to get out of the dollar, and that could happen essentially any time.
Tyler in Canada, you're on the air. Hey, Tyler.
Hello?
Yeah. Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Alex, I'd like to thank you, man. You're doing a great thing right now. This marathon money bomb thing that you're doing, it's unreal. It really is unreal. It's showing so much faith in what you do, and I really hope it wakes some more people up.
Well, that's the great part about all these live interviews and taped interviews and all these amazing guests, and it's all going to have a life of its own on the internet with probably millions of people watching the different videos, the 27 hours that are going to be put out there that are all going out live right now. And it is very exciting, and I do have faith in the listeners, and I'm sure it'll usually take a few days after, but I think we're going to hit our goal of $500,000 if folks keep supporting, and I appreciate everybody who's been involved in this historic event. Tyler, what's on your mind?
Listen, I have no doubt that not only are you going to reach the goal, if you don't reach the specific goal, you're going to reach the ultimate goal. 100%, man. What's on my mind? Jeez, there's a lot on my mind. We got Tarpley on. I'd like to talk to him real quick. But first off, I'd just like to say to everybody, I think that we should research this Project Bluebeam. There's this mass hysteria ensuing about this UFO sightings all over the world, and it's such a great distraction from what's really going on. Yeah, let me get Tarpley's
take on that. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
Oh no, I believe that this. I'm not too knowledgeable about the Project Bluebeam. I've read some of it about the satellites in space, throwing some kind of 3D image in the sky, and they might do it for some religion or something. But it's funny. I was actually looking outside yesterday, and I was amazed at the amount of chemtrails. There was just line after line after line of them. And last night we had a bunch of UFO sightings here.
Tyler?
So, I mean, there's some kind of connection there.
Yeah,
but,
I appreciate your call. What do you think of the Pentagon, everybody else, the government hyping aliens and the UN appointing an ambassador for when they land? Looks like some other kind of weird hoax or something, Webster.
I'm afraid I have to pass on this, Alex. The flying saucer questions have always eluded me, and I just don't have any opinion about it.
Well, let's talk about something more important then. Let's talk about Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot.
I have a list of priorities, and this one is always rather low, so I haven't gotten to it for quite a few years.
But does the abominable snowman, is it a vegetarian?
I don't know. Will the world really end? When is the world supposed to end? In 2012 or
yeah, it's all over.
Look, as St. Augustine says, right, it's ridiculous to try to pick the day and the hour, so I will follow St. Augustine and not try to pick the day and the hour.
Well done, Lord Tarpley. Anna in Florida, you're on the air.
That their pastor raised, and they're raised by... Hello?
Yeah, Anna, we were talking to you.